All rise for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome tonight. We always start off the monthly meeting with recognizing the Employee of the Month, and this month it's Steve Phillips. I don't see Steve here, but Steve works in the Park Department. He's a mechanic 3, and I'll just write what his supervisor wrote about him. His job performance is above and beyond in the call of duty. He says, "What can I say about an employee who does it all? This department can never operate the way it does without his help. He's our own MacGyver. The best part is he's always ready to help everyone in all departments. He's overqualified for his position." So I wanted to congratulate Steve for being recognized as June 2013 Employee of the Month, and thank him for his service, and he really does a great job. We have a public comment section here. We've got some people who've signed up. You got 3 minutes, and just identify yourself. So let's see here. Scratched out Jim Williams. Scratch your name. Come on in.
Did you want Steve to read that letter first?
No.
Cool, okay.
Good evening. My name is Jim Williams, 100 Big Fresh Pond Road, North Sea. My comments are in regard to the pending application for the surf school. Okay, this is quoting from Village Regulations, Article 1, Ocean Beach 80-1. It shall be unlawful for any person or persons to engage in or do any of the acts hereinafter set forth on the Ocean Beach of the Village of Southampton. Paragraph A, commercial activities, to sell, peddle or solicit, or to carry on, engage in or promote in any manner whatsoever, whether directly or indirectly, any business activity, advertising program, promotional scheme, or any commercial enterprise. This prohibition shall not apply to the bathing concession at Cooper's Beach. I hope you folks take that into account when you consider his application. Also, a few questions. If you could come up with a definition of private lesson. Is that 1 instructor and 1 student, or can that be 20 instructors with 1 student? It's also privatizing part of the beach if he is issued a permit for a specific area. What happens if that permitted area is full of people? The permit is for that area only. What happens? Does he pack his circus and go home, or what happens? Parking for parents. If you rented at the helipad, are the parents going to be allowed to park at the helipad without a permit? If so, that basically discriminates against anyone else who is not paying to put their kids in that surf school. I'd also like to know when the public comment, when this is going to be on the agenda, and when it will be open for public comment.
Well, to answer your question, we have stuff in executive session we're going to talk about. There's a lot of legal issues.
Mm-hmm.
Everything you talked about right there is what we have to have discussions with our attorneys on. There's nothing going to be voted on tonight.
Okay.
There's no approvals that are going to happen tonight over anything dealing with a surf camp, and we have a letter that came in that we have to have a discussion with our attorney, and there may be other permitting processes, and so it's a long way away.
Okay, understood. So that then will be on an agenda for public comment after that?
Well, if it comes back.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, I've got Tom McGabey. Tom?
No, we crossed him off, right?
He crossed off, okay.
Because he's from the Water Trust, he's on the
Okay,
agenda.
all right, okay. Tim Behringer.
Tim Behringer. I live at North McGee Street, so I am no longer a village resident, as most of you probably know. I can't reiterate what Jimmy just said because it's true. But what I want to point out is that we have, and Mark, you remember this, Nancy, you probably do, Michael, Rich, Bill, you don't quite remember. We've been fighting for years to maintain our rights to access to that beach down there, the picnic area, quote unquote. Every year we come to you and ask you if you couldn't possibly take some of the heat off, or some of the congestion out of that area so that we could expand it a little bit, maybe go down to the east a little bit. You've always reiterated, and we've always accepted, that because of the lawsuits, we can't do anything down there. Now, there's an application, I believe, in front of you, or to you, that you're going to be asked to not only expand well, not to expand the use, but not to expand the area, but to expand the use of that area. And
That's not true. Okay,
Okay.
Me personally, and we talked about, I would not allow a surf school to go on in that area anymore.
Okay.
Okay, so if there were a surf camp that occurred, it would occur at another location.
Okay. Because we're not sure, but it seems like
I was just
the
gonna tell you
windsock is
what
logical.
my thoughts were, okay, and discuss this with some of the board members. If a surf camp, if we got to the point for a surf camp, which involves our attorney to get to exactly what Jim said, would only be a Monday through Friday, it would be a 9 to 12. It would be limited to 20 kids, and it would only be at maybe a Halsey Neck or an Old Town area, and that's what it would be.
Okay, because that is one of my concerns.
And on top of that, there would be a fee associated with it. Okay.
Yeah.
And but again, there's other steps that have to take care. That's where I sit at right now. That's where I sit. I can't answer for the rest of the board.
I mean, you go there.
I go there.
We
I
have
tell you that.
worked hard to maintain an uneasy cooperative relationship with the property
Yeah.
owners and the people who use the beach,
Yeah.
and to go from maybe 7 to 10 days a year, which is
not-
Sundays,
it's
to
not,
7 days a week is
I
just
know.
crazy. It's
Well,
gonna,
it's,
going to get a call. You're going to get a call from Steve Angel. You know that.
I already know that, but I mean, and Jim brings up a good point. Define private lessons. I mean, there's a lot of good points. that
You're
were
on a
brought
very
up.
slippery slope.
So, but that area right there is, from my stand, I would never vote on anything that would allow a surf camp to go on.
I wish you would expand it, so we
Well,
could.
that's not going to happen. So,
Well, then there should be no further commercial entertainment down there. I mean, it's just okay.
I agree. I mean, that's where my thoughts are. Right now, and
And again, clearly, you're not going to just make a decision tonight.
we're not making a
Executive
decision
session-
tonight.
Session, I
It
mean.
involves multiple steps if we choose to. There was a package that was submitted. It's been reviewed. A letter came in today. Further discussion has to go on.
Okay.
And I
one-
think we're a ways away from.
One particular individual has advertised he's starting on June 17th.
Well, he can advertise all he wants to, but if they show
Okay.
up and they do commercial activity on the beaches in the village of Southampton, code enforcement will
Code
be
will be
down
there. Okay, thank you.
there. Okay. All right. Charles. Heck.
Good evening, my name's Charles Eckert and I'm here on behalf of 1160 Meadow Lane. Just like to apologise for my attire. Number two, okay. Sorry, wrong Charles. All right.
Okay. No. You signed up on this discussion here, but it's
Okay.
also here too. Okay. All right.
Okay,
So
so
you'll be.
I'll be back.
Okay, you'll be back. All right. Good. Thanks. Fran.
Francis Adamczewski, 40 West Prospect Street, Southampton Village. These guys pretty much summed it up. You much summed it up. As long as you're discussing, if he comes aboard, if you're going to give this a permit, let's talk about this before you give him the permit, so all the village residents can at least voice their opinions about having a surf school or a surf camp in the village. And they pretty much summed it up, and I've been coming here all winter, as you know, me and Tim, and it's not just for us. It was for Matt's going to hand you in a petition that we had over 300 people sign to save our picnic area, and it's village residents, Southampton town residents, and some of the homeowners down there.
Okay.
So Thank you.
All right, great.
Thank you.
Matt?
Good evening, Matt Palumbo, 150 Broadie's Pass, Southampton, New York. Here is the copies of the petition that we started and got over 300 signatures on. Specifically, this has turned into a battle against the surf school, but the petition was actually written in general to just ban any commercial activity at that particular stretch of beach because of the sensitivity of the location. And it's actually, the commercialization of it has promoted more people coming. They're bringing X amount of people per day. They figure out that you can get on that beach with just a sticker and a residence, and it's become overpopulated. So I would like to submit this for the record and allow it to influence your decision on any further permit applications for that area, if I could.
Yep. You just hand it to Steve. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Jim?
Hi, Jim McLaughlin, 789 Hill Street. It's my office address. Spend a lot of time down at the picnic area. Have a lot of issues and reservations with the commercial use of the beach anywhere in the village, not just the picnic area, anywhere. It's Pandora's box. You do that for one person, before you know it, you're going to have people renting chaise lounges, offering a $5 sunblock spray down, just like they do on the Jersey Shore. We pride ourselves on not being that. I'd prefer not to. So consider that very seriously. Also on this matter, have you consulted the town trustees, anybody, regarding this matter?
We actually did sit down with last fall with Fred Havemeyer and the town trustees, and I think Fred's comments were, what was his comment there, Rich? Something about it's your decision and it's,
don't want that.
yeah, we're not getting involved or something. I can't remember exactly what his comment was.
I think what the comment was, but it was.
Yeah, we
basically
tried
saying,
to sit down with the
"Sure
town
problem."
trustees in the fall to talk about this whole issue,
Mm-hmm.
and got kind of,
All
you
right.
know,
All right.
with
and then,
with their attorney also.
And then another question. You said you received a package for the application
Yeah.
for this surf school. I'd like to be in here at 9:30 tomorrow morning and FOIA that. Could you have that ready for me?
No, actually, it's 70. You can file the FOIL, and you have 7 days to
Okay.
respond to that. And I don't have a problem with it. And, you know,
Okay.
unless
Well,
my
I'll be
attorney
in
says
tomorrow
no.
morning. I'll file the paperwork.
Okay. Unless our attorney says, once he's reviewed it and says you can't release it.
Public
so-
record.
Public record. Okay, there you go.
Okay.
Okay.
And then
An application that's been entertained by,
absolutely.
accepted by the board or entertained
Okay.
by the board, it has been filed.
okay. And is this just a rule for a surf camp you are considering, or just a very specific named permit, or is this opening the door to any commercial activity? Is there going to be a process for commercial entities to take advantage of whatever you put into the village
That's a-
code at a future time?
Well, that's a whole discussion we're going to have with the village attorney, but I think we've just been focused in on the surf camp is all.
Okay, well, it's right now we have someone named Shane Dykeman who wants to do this.
Yeah.
But there are rather large surfing sportswear concerns globally. And even if they lost $500,000 a year doing it, having a presence in Southampton on the beach doing surf camp, it's something.
We're fully aware of that, and I
Okay.
appreciate your
Let me
comments
give
and
you
stuff.
a
Yeah,
little
let's-
further
Okay.
piece of information. The application is actually premature
Mm-hmm.
and could not be considered at this time. You know, as you're aware from earlier public comments, there's a provision in the code that prohibits commercial activity on the beach. If the village board wanted
Can you hear
to do something in relation to a surf camp or any other type of activity, the first step would be to amend, it would have to be an amendment to the village code.
Mm-hmm.
And as you're probably aware, if an amendment to the village code were proposed, the Board of Trustees would have to have a public hearing
Sure.
on that amendment
Mm-hmm.
and hear public comments on it. If the amendment were adopted, then to the extent that the amendment allowed an application, that would be the time. So the first step is whether the board wants to make any amendments to the code.
Okay.
And there are legal issues and other issues involved in that.
Sure.
That's why I say the application is premature. That's why it's not on the agenda tonight, because it's not an application that could be granted, even if the board wanted to, at this point in time.
Okay.
So if that puts it in a better picture, it's, as the mayor indicated, it's a long ways away if anything were to happen at all.
Okay. Terrific. Thank you.
All right.
Yep.
Jim?
Could I ask a question on that?
We'll just come on up to the microphone so we can, we'll jump protocol a little bit, but go ahead.
State my name again.
No, it's okay.
I just had a question as to how has the camp been able to operate for the last 2 years without anybody cracking down on it? Why did we have to go through this measure to get all these petitions and actually have, verbal altercations with the company and et cetera, et cetera?
Good question. I mean, we're at where we're here today.
I've taken
Yeah.
off time from work. I've
Yeah.
gone to the town meeting. I went to the town meeting and they made a fool of me saying that they had no idea. Fred Habermeyer drafted legislation to actually avoid this particular entity to move to his beach. It was quite insulting actually to have nobody.
This camp has operated in the village for more than 2 years.
I understand,
and
but it was
multiple
okay
years.
when they were at the bathing court because we don't, as locals, we really don't frequent that
They
beach.
weren't at the bathing corp. They were at different points around basically where the break was. The issue really last year because the size of the camp was huge.
And I would just like to add on my earlier comment, a big problem with that is a safety issue. I've been down there a number of days where they actually walked up to me and asked me for ice out of my cooler to treat injuries from these people. They were pushing people out in front of other surfers. They're not teaching any proper etiquette. They're very disrespectful in general. So I feel as though a mistake was made to not crack down on it prior, and I'd like to make that known.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thanks. Okay. Any further comments on anything? It doesn't have to be about the surf school. We're in public comment section if you didn't sign up. Okay, so I'll make a motion. We'll close the public comment. We're going to go to board presentations here. We got first Fire Chief Dennis Roy.
Yeah, I just want to give a little intro to what Chief Roy is up here about. He's going to discuss about going out to bid.
Well, 1 second.
Oh,
Let everybody go. You know how to clear a room there, Dennis.
Yes.
You know?
Oh, sorry. Daddy O is going to stay for me. Dennis Roy, Southampton Fire Chief. Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I was going to say, he was up here to talk. He was going to talk about the bidding process for an apparatus that has been researched for the last couple of years. Finally come to fruition. And by putting some extra time into researching it, it's actually, we've been able to squeeze a little more life out of the current apparatus. So that's why Chief Roy has come up here to, after a long discussion, what he's going to talk about with this new apparatus.
Okay.
Exactly. I'm here before the board for your approval, actually, to go out to bid. We have the specs. We've been working on them for over 2 years to replace Unit 7311. I have a copy of the spec sheet here. And you'll see it. As you know, the village, they do a great job maintaining it, but we are on a 20-year replacement. We've been budgeted for it, so the funds are there, I believe. And with all the new safety features for the trucks, I think it's very important that we go ahead and go out to bid with this vehicle. This 11 actually doesn't have anything. It has no anti-lock brakes, has no rollover protection, and it's seen better days, obviously.
Yeah, like I said, the good part about this is that they've been looking at it for 2 years. They've gone back and forth with different type of design styles, and again, the good part about it is that it's due, and there is a standard replacement procedure that the fire department has with equipment. This actually is extended a little bit, so we squeaked a little bit out and actually conserved, making this purchase even a couple extra years. So the department and of course the garage did a good job of squeezing a little more life out of the current vehicle, but it definitely is time to now.
The outlying district commissioners have a copy of it, and I spoke to the chairman just today, and he had one small question on hose capacity, which we only spec'd out 1,500 feet of 5-inch. That's just to keep the budget number down, but once we obtain it, we'll purchase more and add it to it on our equipment budget.
We got the pumper placement resolved
The
there.
pumper
Yeah.
placement, yes, there has been some consensus.
We've got plenty of room, yes we do.
The type of vehicle, that's all.
Yeah,
the brand
we're
and
all
everything,
set,
pumper
exactly.
placement, the brand,
We have
everybody's
two
was-
lifelong mechanics and an ex-chief on the committee. We had all 5 captains approve it yesterday and the 3 chiefs at a council meeting, which is fantastic.
That's good.
So we're all in agreement there.
Okay. It's a consensus out of
There
it.
is a consensus, yes, and they've come to a common ground with it. So with that, I would like to propose that the chief go out to bid for the new pumper. Replace their current pumper level.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, the board, thank you very much for your time.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief, and for everything that you do.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. There was a big, they were rolling at, what was going on earlier?
We had a lady put a little bit too much olive oil on her scalloped potatoes and said her oven was on fire, but thankfully just a little bit of smoke in the house. We had a great response.
I saw blue lights on trucks all over the place.
Yes. You know, since I've been chief, we haven't had anything, and we have a lot of great young members, and they're excited. So we're doing great. The membership is fantastic, and
Some potatoes
we have an
behind the
influx
stove.
of young people with a lot of energy. Okay.
Well, that's good.
dinner?
No, we didn't save the dinner. No, it's too bad. She's cleaning the oven though tonight. Okay.
That's good.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, come on up here.
Back again. So my name is Charles Heckert, and I'm here to represent 1160 Meadow Lane with regards to us acquiring some guinea hens. Those are some pictures of the property with some specs for the coops we intend to design. I don't know if any of you know anything about guinea hens. The reason we would like them is to remove our ticks. We have plenty of small children on the property, and you can't go 10 feet in our garden without having a tick on you. So we looked into the most natural way to do that without spraying heavy pesticides on everything. When we have 4-year-old girls licking leaves, we decided that we would go the more alternative route and get some guinea hens involved and see if they can help reduce the amount of ticks we have on the property. The only concerns people have with them, everyone I've spoken to, is that they're noisy. We've taken that into consideration. You'll see a design in there for a coop that will be hidden in our forest, completely away from the neighbour's property. That coop will have sound insulation. It will be better than a recording studio. The reason we're doing that is so that we can't hear the guinea hens at all. The way they work is we will bring them in, we'll keep them in a fenced-in enclosure for 5 weeks. We'll reset their GPS so they don't run away the minute we let them out. Once their clock's been reset, we'll have a food path to the front lawn and basically just train them. That's where they go for food, and that'll keep them away from the road, and the neighbours' property is already fenced off, so we're not too worried about that. We will put insulation on the neighbour's side. The location that we chose is as far from any neighbours as you can possibly get on our location. And our location is just under 5 acres. We're asking for 6 guinea hens and 3 chickens. The reason we want the chickens is because they're not as smart as guinea hen, and they'll actually keep the guinea hens a lot calmer. So if you have a couple of chickens that aren't afraid of anything, we do have a number of foxes around there that we see from time to time. And if the chickens aren't afraid, the guinea hens will calm down a little bit. So that's the reason for us. The coop should have 12 roosts in it, but we're only planning to put 9 birds in there. And then we'll monitor and see if it makes a difference to the ticks. Our plan for the birds for the winter are to send them back to the farm. So they'll be here through September, go back to the farm, and if it gets approved again next year, spring, we'll bring them back in again, reset their clocks, and start all over again.
Rick, with the structure they want to construct here, what do they have to do?
I don't
Is
have
this
the whole,
classified as a,
there's a whole code section dealing with this. I don't know if,
It's on the back page too, Rick.
yeah,
I don't know if that's the whole thing. I don't know if there's more, I think there's more to this section than we have right here.
The structure, we actually decided that we'd get in, we'd buy a pre-made structure, which is what you'll see in there. That comes in, it's just a storage
Do we have
shed.
a written application? Do we have a survey showing what they?
I mean, this is all we have right here.
Yeah, that's unfortunately all I brought
Yeah.
in, yes.
Okay.
I mean, I wasn't aware that. What this was from the agenda listing, so I don't
Yeah.
have on the top of my head all of the details of that code section. I think
Okay.
Steve just went to get it.
Yeah. So let's do this, because we have a presentation, so we're gonna let him read the book. We'll
Okay.
come back to you in a little bit to talk to, and that way he has an opportunity to digest the materials
Yeah,
here.
absolutely.
And, no pun intended there, so, we'll come back to you.
Perfect. Can I leave you with a survey of the property, and that way you can see exactly where we intend to leave it?
Yeah, why don't
Yeah.
you,
That would be a good thing.
and,
Thank you.
if you wanna, some,
Are you leaving, or is he
No,
just?
no, I'm asking him just to, so that way we can get on to the
Yeah.
presentations and you can read and review and,
This forest.
go from here.
Thank you.
Let me look at the code section.
Okay,
The chickens will come.
Alright, great.
And
okay.
I would think they do that.
So we're gonna have a board presentation, PO? Marty? Yeah, okay.
Good evening, Kevin McAllister.
Is it really on the screen?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll just pull that back. a little bit
Okay,
so that
sorry, thank you.
we- Yeah,
Sorry, a little under the weather, thank you. Before I introduce PO, let me introduce really what we're trying to accomplish. As you know, I'm your baykeeper, so I'm trying to deal with coastal waters as a whole, but all points lead to certainly these coastal ponds and tributaries. Mr. John Paulson was kind enough to provide us with a grant to really try to address Lake Agawam. And our ultimate goal here is to establish, I guess, a benchmark for a particular pond that is degraded. Lake Agawam is impaired waters, and I don't care where you live in eastern Long Island, it's a matter of a half a mile, you will find impaired waters. So Lake Agawam, as you know, with the fish kills, the algal blooms, we have problems. So we're trying to find solutions and ultimately establish, I think, again, a benchmark for solutions to restoration of our local waters from ponds to coastal waters. I met Mr. Lombardo about 2 years ago in my interest in wastewater, as you know. Going back 6 or 7 years ago, where I certainly arrived at a place where wastewater through groundwater infiltration is a significant problem to our water quality problems. P.O.'s been tremendous. I have great respect for him. And ultimately, through, again, Mr. Paulson's grant, we engaged Lombardo and Associates to help us look at Lake Agawam for solutions. And I think we have a really very good prescription, and I hope it will be a benchmark for bringing it to other locales where, again, we have problems. So without further ado, Mr. Lombardo, please. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Mayor and trustees. I trust you know I'm from Boston, so I know Mr. Yastrzemski from childhood days, so it's nice to know that I'm in good hands here locally. Bear with me. Okay, what we were retained for was to put together an action plan to restore the water quality of Lake Agawam. The objective of the project, and Kevin and our dialogue and Mr. Paulson's, it's not to produce another study, but let's get on with it and do something. And with the objective of restoring the water quality at the least cost within the fastest time frame possible. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, you have a copy of the project report in front of you, as well as we prepared a one-page summary that tells it all. And I'm going to walk you through the essence of the report, and naturally happy to answer any questions that the trustees, the mayor, general public has on any facet of the issue. Now, you know we're talking about Lake Agawam right behind you. Excuse me, I'm going to have to move around a little bit. Wrong. Okay. And again, as Kevin said, this is all a result of the generosity of Mr. Paulson. Excuse me, I don't want to get disconnected here. Okay. In summary, when we look at, first we need to define what's the problem or what's the challenge that we need to address. At the end of the day, phosphorus is the issue that needs to be addressed. The quantity of phosphorus in the water determines the water quality of Lake Agawam, not nitrogen. Nitrogen is generally the determinant in saline waters. Phosphorus is the controlling nutrient in fresh waters, unless it's proven otherwise. In terms of the sources of phosphorus, the benthic release, which is the release from the bottoms of the lake, is really, let me call it the elephant in the room. Represents, according to Professor Gobler, 89% of the phosphorus within the water column. Okay, so that release, the way the lakes age, is that the phosphorus comes into the lake from a variety of sources. Generally, then gets algae grows. That's its food. It's a fertilizer. That algae then settles to the bottom after it dies, and that phosphorus in there gets released. So it accumulates over time, and lakes generally over geologic time fill up with that sediment material. Okay, so the phosphorus that's been discharged to Lake Agawam over decades, so we're dealing with a legacy issue from agricultural sources, I've been told. You have a good history of on these matters, but that phosphorus in the bottom there is really, again, being released. Stormwater discharge is also a significant component of it, representing about 7%. The last item is the waterfowl. You know that there's quite a few waterfowl that, let me say, rest on the lake, and they stay there a long time, and obviously they're discharging phosphorus into the lake, and we've made calculations as to how much it would be, and it's a relatively significant, it's not insignificant, let me say that. So how do we restore the quality of the lake? We went through in the report, you'll see there's very detailed description of what good water quality means in terms of phosphorus concentration, clarity, et cetera. So we've established quantitative metrics as to what the various levels of water quality are. We're not going to be able to restore that lake to what we call oligotrophic, crystal clear, for a long time, if at all, just because it's going to. But we can, and our goal is to restore water quality to a level where there could be contact recreation in the water. So that's our goal from, let me call it a plain English objective, okay? That gets translated into algae concentration that I'll get into. Now, how are we going to do that? First thing that we're recommending is that there should be a permanent watershed monitoring program so that one knows what's going on. What we're doing now is we're relying on data that was collected, and it was spotty data, and there's only so much of it. As well as it establishes a benchmark, and it allows us to evaluate performance. That here's where we started, we think we're going to get to this point within a couple of years, and we do or we don't. Okay, and there's a whole variety of influences. Some of you may know there's a lot of springs that come up into the lake, where those coming from, and they could be transporting contaminants, phosphorus in. We really don't know that yet. We don't have sufficient data. And with current electronic technology, this can all be live, if you will, on the internet. The technical engineering solutions we're proposing is to construct a living wetland for stormwater treatment. There's two stormwater, and I'll go into the details on this shortly. We would also, that'll deal with the stormwater discharge to the lake, so we remove that phosphorus. To deal with the phosphorus in the lake, what we're proposing is to build a living wetland as well and extract the water from the lake, pass it through the wetland to remove the phosphorus from it, and with time, the sediment will, let me say, sterilize itself. It'll be releasing it, but what's going down into it will start getting diminished such that the net release, and the challenge that we have a challenge in terms of how long it's going to take. This is a very innovative approach. It hasn't been done that often, but it scientifically has strong basis. And it could potentially, the nice thing about this approach, it's natural, and it becomes a nice legacy. It's basically sort of like adding a filter to an aquarium, if you will, conceptually. And then, should this option not be successful, the options of using alum or Phoslock, as is done, I believe it's Mill Pond recently, are options that can be used to inactivate that bottom material. Those are, I would call, more medicine type of, and I know people have concerns about the chemicals that is used. The issue is that this may not even be enough, okay? So, and then the last component is really to deal with the waterfowl. There's a whole variety of, let me call them soft techniques. So a detailed plan should be developed, and then it should be implemented to obviously discourage the waterfowl from using the lake as much as it is being used. Now, schematically, this is the proposed stormwater treatment system. We identified this parcel of land that you probably all well know is a town village-owned property, has a conservation easement. There's a house here that's been fenced off and not being used. So that location would be sufficient for treating the stormwater. We would intercept the stormwater coming in at this point. As you probably know, there's two discharge points, one in this northeast corner and the other one in the northwest corner. The northwest corner, been told, should be reduced significantly, or you're eliminating a lot of the discharges there. So we would extract the stormwater from here and, let me say, push it through the wetland. Small pumps, and then the effluent from that would basically conceptually would just go back right into the storm and drain going into the lake. So the phosphorus has been removed. A lot of the phosphorus is associated with particles, solid particles. So there's a sedimentation process, and then it's a biogeochemical process that removes the phosphorus that's dissolved in the water. Okay, so we've also laid out that this wetland could also be below grade. It can be in a concrete structure. Basically, let's call it a large septic tank, if you will, and the water can be passed through it with media in that water to remove the phosphorus. While this is technically possible, it's obviously going to be more costly than do it on an open land, because we've now got parking lots and concrete, whereas here it's going to be a lot less expensive to do. So this is a sort of fallback option. We would segment a portion of it to test out the option of extracting the lake water and pushing it through the wetland. So that would be done, and data would be collected, let's say, over a year period to be able to size the system and make those determinations as to how reliable it can be as a long-term solution. Okay? So those are the let me call it engineering layouts. We've done sizing on them, et cetera. Long-term, if this approach is as successful as we think it can be, this is just schematic of a concept of this is how the lake water would be removed. Basically a network of pipes that would sit on the bottom of the lake, and there would be a vacuum applied to it to extract the water at a very low rate. Our initial calculations were that the lake, we would turn the lake over once every 30 days. So once every 30 days, where the water's being pushed through the filter of the entire lake. So, so that's the conceptual approach and the engineering pieces. Now, in terms of the financial, how much is it going to cost and who's going to pay for it? Our preliminary budget, and this is assuming no private donations, is that we're looking at a project cost of probably $8 million. We've estimated that 50+% of that could be paid for by state, in particular, federal grants. There are specific grants programs that, frankly, will pay up to 90%. So we've assumed only 50, just to be conservative, that in case all the grants don't get received. I've had conversations with the state grants people, and this would be, it fits their categories. So, and I think it would be well received. Now, there's naturally going to be an operation maintenance cost because the system needs to be maintained. We've estimated the annual budget would then be between $320,000 and $720,000. That includes the actual annual operation maintenance costs and the debt amortization. Any local share, we've amortized it over, if I remember right, 20 years at 4% interest rate. Okay? So what does that mean per property? We frankly just counted the number of properties with the GIS for, there's about 2,000 properties within the lake watershed boundaries, most of which are in the village, some of them are in the town. So we just used that and said, gee whiz, that's sort of, that would be about $400 a year if there's no grants per EDU. An EDU means a equivalent dwelling unit, which means a typical three-family house. Okay? If you look at it from an assessment perspective, it would be $6.90 per $1,000 of a property assessed value, or with the 50% grants, it would be $3. And naturally, if more than 50% grants and or donations are made, those numbers go down. Okay? So, and all the detail on these calculations and the basis of them are in the document. Now, in terms of, let me call it a Gantt chart and sort of overall, how's this thing going to play out? What we have now is the master plan, and that's completed. The two things that would be done in parallel is the watershed studies, and then, let me call it a continual refinement of the strategy, and then at the same time to pursue the actual installation of the stormwater wetland, because that's needed, and then to do the demonstration project for the Lake benthic water removal, get that system designed, constructed, and operated for at least a year, and then, depending on the results of that, either go to a full-scale lake water treatment system or consider using some of the alternate conventional techniques for phosphorus sequestration. Okay? So our estimate is that our goal right now is to pursue the grants for which applications are due by September 30th. And they would be the ones that there's a 50% grant availability for this component, and there's a 90% grant availability for the construction component. So the question and the decision for you is whether to proceed with pursuing those grants. The way the schedule would be is, assuming the grants are procured, is that systems would be built within a year. Design and construction would probably take 2 years. Then we get some data, so that we would be looking at, let's say, 2018, or within 5 years, that the restoration efforts would be significantly underway. And you should be ideally seeing some material water quality improvements that would be noticeable. Okay? Now, so that's the, let me call it, big picture on it. In terms of the major near-term milestones, what's before you is an initial phase to actually pursue the grants. There's a lot of engineering work that needs to be done to support those, because they're going to be funding engineering projects, and so they're going to want to see details. So that's going to be for $25,000. And then we've estimated for this function that it's about a $440,000 effort, and so the local share on that would be $220,000. That would not, this one would be, let me say, immediate. This expenditure would occur from, let's say, September 2013 for 12 months, okay? And then the same thing for this funding of the local share of the construction of the stormwater treatment system. That would take probably 18 months for design and construction. Okay, so you can get a flavor for that from a cash flow perspective, and this is the numbers for the local share for the entire thing, if it all plays out. And naturally, the variance here is depending on how much grants are received. Okay, so that's the plan and recommendation. I should have mentioned that the mayor, when we've met with him, and I'll say it at the end, I'll say it now, the village staff and the mayor have been wonderful to work with and very supportive, and so it's frankly been a joy. We've met with the town trustees, we've met with the planning commissions, made the presentations. The town trustees have provided us their support, as well as the planning commission. So, your DPW superintendent, Gary Gillespie, has worked very closely with us and been very supportive. So we have a lot of the details sort of ironed out, and the mayor has some very interesting concepts for that wetland area in terms of how to enhance the boardwalk or potential boardwalk and the use at that front end of the lake, which could be very, very nice. So we're, if you will, ready for prime time. Now, this is what we're talking about. this is a visual representation that EPA has presented that show this is water quality just from a clarity perspective. If you think about it in terms of chlorophyll A, which is a measure of algae, at this point, generally speaking, it's 8. Okay, and this is micrograms per liter, but remember 8. So once you start getting above 8 or 10, it's going to start appearing degraded. Okay. When you get out to this end, where there's extensive degradation, the problem that you see is excessive algae growth to the point where, and the types of algae that grow have toxic, excrete toxic matters that can be fatal, not can be, are fatal to animals. You probably read in the paper not that long ago, some dogs died just by drinking the water. Not unusual. Frankly, it's not unusual. Lake Champlain, for instance, happens all the time. And naturally, no one's going to swim in that because you'll get serious ear infections, et cetera. And it's not inviting when you look at it. Now, here's the data that's been published by Professor Gobler. I should have mentioned as well is that we've had communication with the Lake Agawam Conservation Association, and we didn't have an opportunity to meet with them. However, they have provided their support and have made a commitment. The mayor suggested that he would advocate that the town, the village would be may be able to fund half of that $25,000. The Lake Agawam Conservation Association has made a commitment to fund half of the balance, so a quarter of so that commitment has been made, and Kevin is soliciting some other private sources for that balance of funding. So we already have that support from the Lake Agawam Association. The key thing here to look at these numbers. I'm talking at 100 for the chlorophyll A. Even, quote, it's better, but it's still at 40. Okay. Now, in our opinion, this improvement here is coincidental with when the aeration was added to the lake. So, in our opinion, what's happening is, we don't have, and this is what's missing. There's no phosphorus there. But what we suspect occurred is that when you aerate water, you create oxic conditions, less phosphorus gets released from the muds, and that's the reason why you see that decrease. But it's still, let me call it over the charts, over the top. And so again, I know there's been debates about this, but we provide tons of references, and we've had some nationally recognized limnologists on this project working with us. Phosphorus is the issue. So phosphorus needs to be the focus of remediation. This is the existing inputs according to Professor Gobler, and where those percentages, you can see, if you will, the elephant in the room is the benthic flux. If we want to get to what we call the TMDL, which would be the really clean water, we're talking very high phosphorus removal requirements. So it's no small challenge for we're in pursuit of what has to be done. Again, those are the three components: stormwater, benthic, and waterfowl. Here's a little more detail on the locations of the discharges, and again, where the treatment sites would be. You can't read this, but it's in your document, but it just shows there's a lot of detail in there on all of the components. And I won't go into that. We also have provided you with a Gantt chart that shows how these all dovetail together so that we get from year 1 to year 5. Okay? And lastly, again, just like to acknowledge the great support that we've received from the village, and the recommendation in the report is that the village take responsibility for this, if you will, project. You there's a whole variety of legal mechanisms to do this. Could become a part of your DPW function. Or there's a variety of techniques on how it can be, and bottom line that it's how you're going to bond it, and how it's going. Basically, how you bond it is really what drives that decision making more than anything else. So, without further, I'll be happy to respond to any questions or comments that you all may have. Thank you.
Do guinea hens drink phosphorus? Any chance?
So, no, guinea hens drink phosphorus, you know.
Right. So the timeline I'd like to emphasize is that the grant application needs to be submitted by September 30th. So to prepare all the materials and submit it, there's really not a lot of time. It's going to take a good 2 to 3 months to do it properly and correctly. And generally with these things, one wants to go in and almost do a pre-application or pre-submittal sort of conference with the receiving agency so that it gets slanted the optimal way. So that's really before you is adopting, if you will, our recommendation, and then pursuing its implementation. So we want to, set this, if you will, give this project some life, and that's what's before you.
Where have you done this already? Has this been done already?
Yes, all of the things we're talking about here, quote, have been done with the part that is, let me call it risky or innovative, is the extraction of the lake water through and passing it through the wetland. Now, passing water that has phosphorus through a wetland for phosphorus removal is the state of the art, is in a good spot. I can tell you I've been doing this for I've been doing it for 35 years, but we've been working with phosphorus techniques for a good 25 years, and the state of the art is pretty good right now. So it's relatively well known. What we don't have data on is how well this can be used for that benthic, if you will, stripping. Now, I can tell you that this is being pursued in a number of places around the world because it's a serious problem. And the Chinese in particular are really bad problems because we have found in the literature that there's a number of places that are experimenting with this. So there is a risk that, just to be very open, there's a risk that it's good, but it may not be good enough. And that's where the alum or phosphorid is sort of the backstop.
And if I may add, Pio's representation, ultimately as a biologist, I'm vetting this. And ultimately, I do believe that the prescription for pond restoration here is very well-founded. I wouldn't subscribe to it unless I felt that way. I do believe that, and so I encourage the board really to support this restoration effort. And again, back to my earlier comments, I think there's an opportunity here to establish Agawam as a model for restoration, because all of our ponds are degraded, throughout Long Island. And here's a good chance to really try to restore what is really ultimately your benchmark for local community.
Right. And I should mention that, I have two professional colleagues that we've worked with for decades, limnologists and groundwater geohydrologists, geochemists that are world famous, and they're involved. So we've got a very good brain trust in terms of this. So, and we've tried to segment it in a manner so things can be done sequentially and optimized.
Questions?
Yes.
my first question is, I can see the size of the area that you will use. In this phosphorus treatment, is there any odor involved in it? Because
No.
phosphorus usually has a very strong odor, does it not?
No, phosphorus doesn't have it. No, you're thinking of sulfur. You're thinking of sulfur. Yeah, phosphorus doesn't have an odor issue. Why I'm hesitating a little bit is that the process that is used for phosphorus removal is both anaerobic and aerobic. Anaerobic situations, if it's not properly engineered, can produce hydrogen sulfide, which is what you sense. However, we know how to engineer it such that that reaction doesn't happen.
And the other question that I have, I know we do have a long wall there between that and the playground. Is there any chance that this treatment could go from this property over to the playground property?
Help me understand, where's the playground?
The playground is contiguous with it, closer to the park. It's all
This
there.
right here?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the idea is that we would make this a recreational area and passive recreation by, let me call it, creating a boardwalk through it that because there is a restriction on its use, that it has to be for recreational purposes. So we would, and we've had communication with the people that manage that for the town. So we've already checked that out, and it would be designed to be multi-purpose. One of it would be passive recreation. Could be sitting areas and walks through that whole area. So it could be very pretty. And then the mayor suggested perhaps even building a boardwalk along here to then, in here, and that would,
We've always talked about.
yeah, and it frankly would dovetail extremely well. It would be beautiful.
Because we've talked about, we were trying to do different ways to collect the runoff and
Right.
clean it and filter it before it actually hit the lake, and
Right.
and all of that ideally was going to be hidden by a boardwalk that would
Right.
run
It was
south into
interesting
the park.
because the mayor mentioned it, and frankly, one of the town trustees mentioned it at our meeting, and we had done a schematic of that, but we said, oh, let's not stir up a hornet's nest, and then so we said we're thrilled. So we have a sketch. What that would be is basically putting let me call it underwater wall. You wouldn't know it was there. That would segment this area, and then this would become a phosphorus removal wetland, and a boardwalk could be built on top of that. So it could be and naturally you could have educational components to it.
Could you do that there and then eliminate the subsurface treatment area underneath the parking lot?
Ideally, yes.
Because we do have septic in that parking lot. You have,
Right.
and I think the cost is substantial and different,
The honest answer is that we'll know that once we get data on how well this is going to work. I mean, we'll have our first, estimate. We think it should be. Frankly, we did look at that. We carted off an area, I believe it was an acre in total, and that's big enough. So I just want to sort of, it's, I don't want to say risky, there's some unknowns we don't want to get, so I don't want to come off too overconfident, but it could.
Well, if you're going to recirculate that lake water every 30 days, you must need quite a big piece of property to filter it.
Not well.
I mean,
we made an estimate. If I remember right, we just need an acre to push that whole lake through. I'll have to go back and check the calculations, but what we did, frankly, was we looked at the land we had,
right,
and then we said, hey, and we have our design criteria, how long the water has to stay in that treatment wetland for the chemistry to occur, and it just came out that. He says, oh, that's not bad.
Wetlands
So
have an incredible ability attenuate
No,
nutrients.
I realize that, yeah. I just, there's a lot of water in that.
No,
lake.
it's a good question.
Yeah.
Right, but think of it this way, what's that, 1 acre, if I remember right, it was about 6 feet deep, so, 200, that's, if my math is right, that's 1.5 to 2 million gallons,
Yeah.
okay? So, it's in the report to how many millions of gallons are in the lake, and I don't want to, it might have been 90 days, so, but it's 30 plus is I best recall.
Yeah.
It's in the report.
It's pretty amazing.
Okay.
Sure.
But but what we do by the removal from the lake is that we're taking out the phosphorus that's in the algae, see, and we're harvesting it. So, and ideally, we'll strip the bottom muds. And this is being, let me call it, pursued in a number of locations around the world because it's a ubiquitous problem.
You're going to have pretty good plant life there.
Well, the interesting thing about phosphorus in wetlands is that, is really that the action's in the roots. See, that's really where the biogeochemistry is going on. So we can put it in a box on the ground, okay? The emergent portion is attractive. It does some function, but think of it this way, for it to have a meaningful function, you have to harvest it and take it away. So, so it's not, we don't count it. The plants do help facilitate it, though, because there's a whole sub-ecology in the soil, or in the that's what we're engineering around. And the science has evolved pretty well over the last 40, 30 plus years. Like when we started using wetlands in the industry in the early 80s, let me say there was a lot of hope in it. But, there's been a lot of lessons learned. And, yes.
Just so I'll understand better what you're proposing, the filtration, is that a mechanical filtration system, or are you just passing it through the land and?
Yeah, good. Think of it this way, and I apologize I don't have a section for you, but think of it this way, that you have let's say a 6-foot column that has media in it that's highly porous, okay? We're really going to pump it through there very slowly.
So it's like tanks?
Right, it'll be a horizontal flow. So it's what we call a horizontal flow wetland. And so this would have a serpentine pattern to it. So water would come in, flow subsurfacely up and down. And as it's going through there, there's bacteria that is on that media that's doing the work. The chemistry is heavily reliant upon iron precipitation of the phosphorus. At the end of the day, we're mineralizing the phosphorus that's dissolved in the water to a solid compound that attaches itself to the media. So our calculations and estimate are that the iron will be consumed or be sequestered, and every 7 to 10 years you'd have to inject more iron in there to allow it to occur. That's what happens naturally. Is that wetlands remove phosphorus from that iron precipitation. And it's all pH influenced. There's a lot of factors, but it's predominantly iron. You can also do it with aluminum, but iron is and iron's the one that we're focused on.
Is it a chemical process that you're?
Yes,
are you
it is.
Pumping the water through, and so you've got to have pumps that are constantly circulating. The
Right,
water?
right. But remember this: these are very small pumps. We're not moving around fast. Number one, and it's basically a lift pump. And we're not pushing it.
Manifold on the bottom of the.
It's being drawn up. The pumps for this system, I don't know what it would be. We didn't do the calculations, but we're talking. I don't think there's 2 digits on the horsepower. I'd be surprised.
Are they're subsurface?
Right. And then you just push. You're pushing it. Frankly, the way we do a lot of these is you just push it to the top, and then it goes by gravity through it. So it'll be
The
designed,
pumps are under the water.
yeah, pumps are all underwater.
No noise associated.
None at all.
Okay, so it's moving.
It's like, think of it, they're water well pumps.
They're lift pumps, right?
Exactly. And you think of it, how high are we lifting it? The bottom of the lake is only 10 feet at the worst, I think at the deepest spot. So there's no energy being used to speak of, and it wouldn't be hard to make this a zero energy use system with some full solar voltaic.
Wetland does its work just basically biologically. So it's all about getting the water up top, sheet flow through it, and plants, roots do their thing.
What we call it, the mechanism, it's a biologically mediated geochemical process, okay? The biology is conveyed, I like that. You've got a biology there that needs some food. They convert the solid iron that we put in there into a soluble form. That soluble form then mineralizes the phosphorus. If you remember your chemistry, KSP, okay, the phosphorus then that's in the water comes out of the water, okay? The phosphorus that's attached to the solid material gets filtered as it's going through. So there's a biology that gets the chemistry to work.
And how do you remove this? You've removed 10,000 pounds of phosphorus. Does it become a solid? And then what do you do with that? And how do you...
Well, first of all, it'll enrich it with phosphorus. We haven't done the calculations, but, it's not, it would be good mulch material. After it would have good agricultural value. You could harvest it, and it could be used as a fertilizer.
The wetland will flourish. You'll end up getting significant growth by root uptake. Ultimately, you're taking up the phosphorus. So by the time from the system, from up gradient, down gradient, you're removing the phosphorus, and as the water ultimately releases into the lake again, it's in basically diminished phosphorus content.
Right. And then, there's no, it's highly unlikely for it to plug. And think of it this way. This stuff is going on in nature all the time. Now, it would plug, but now we're talking decades. So, because wetlands age with time, they go from highly porous to muck. So muck is not porous, but they start highly porous. So if it turns into muck, I believe you're talking decades, and now you got a phosphorus-rich muck. So,
yeah, well, does the phosphorus-rich muck? But does the phosphorus-rich muck that you're talking about there still continue to filter out when we're trying, or do you have to get in and replace this over time?
We believe that just by rejuvenation of which the critical item is the iron. So the iron gets consumed, the phosphorus stays there. We wouldn't need to remove it for if I had to pick a number, I'd say 40 years. I would.
If there's plants growing, there's uptake, and that will be continued.
The only reason to remove it is because of hydraulic loss. It's
Packed.
It's packed. Exactly. It's not porous anymore. That's the only reason to do that.
And that's an eventuality. That's not something that could possibly happen. That will happen.
That will happen, but we're talking decades. Decades.
Even with decades of runoff and slush at the bottom of that lake at the level that it is?
Well, remember, we're now just it would not be hard for us to calculate how much phosphorus we're talking about. Well, see, the problem, we could estimate it. The problem is that we don't even have Goebel's data on what's there, and we don't know how deep it goes. See, that's the testing that has to be done to be able to quantitatively say, yeah, it'll take this long. So that's the reason, going back to the...
So that's where the $25,000 goes?
No, excuse me.
The $25,000 does what for us?
the $25,000 really is to, let me say, get you in play. Because right now, you got a report,
Right.
okay? So these two things happen concurrently, okay? So this would then provide us, this is fairly defined for the stormwater. It's, I don't want to call it black and white, but it's close, okay? We're going to test the concept here, and while we're testing the concept, we will have data now that we'll be able to come back and say, here's the numbers, that as best known, that it's going to take X number of years to get that area to strip.
May I frame this out relative to that sediment depth? And I don't know if it's defined or not through Gobler, but we're talking several feet of basically highly enriched organics. So the notion of dredging and demucking and, you know, God knows what contaminants are in there, you know, that's probably very unlikely. So what we're proposing is ultimately trying to remove the phosphorus from the sediment muck without actually dredging, because again, that'll be really hard lift, I think, with regulatory constraints.
It costs a fortune.
And it costs a fortune.
Now, and you may be thinking that, you know, all of that muck is going to disappear. No, we're not taking the muck away. It's not going to go away. It'll go away with time. We're taking the phosphorus that's in the muck, stripped out, so that the amount that does come out of the benthic area is severely diminished. Okay, we're not taking the muck out. And the amount of phosphorus that's in the muck, you know, it's, if I remember right, it's in the parts per million, you know. For every 1,000,000 pounds of muck, there might be 2 pounds of phosphorus. But you don't need a lot to be a problem with phosphorus. So, you know, we're talking about, you have to get phosphorus down to very low levels. You have to get it down. Our target, frankly, is 50 parts per billion. Phosphorus in the water to get it down to. You ideally want to be below 20. Let's get to 50. If we can get to 50, that'd be huge. You'll know it'll be usable.
Most of that now?
You don't want to get stuck.
What is it now?
Yeah.
We don't have, there's no data.
So that's not from Goble. Okay.
The data wasn't collected. So that's what we're saying. That's what this is going to fill that void. As well as the other piece of it is, according to Gobler's data, and we did some data collection, and we didn't find anything that would differ, is that the wastewater contributions seem to be not a significant impact. Now, I can go into a long discussion about why the science of that, but I don't want to bore you. But that's a geochemistry issue that's unique to your area. But phosphorus problems in freshwater ponds are ubiquitous on the island. Cape Cod, they're all over. It's a problem, seriously. And
I'll emphasize this. I referred to 303D, impaired waters, Agawam. I mean, that you come into your village, this is, I mean, it's behind you. So to the extent that we can restore this pond, I know you call it a lake, it is a pond. You know, ultimately,
Sump,
I think
actually.
I'm sorry?
It's a sump, actually.
Right on the mark.
well, you know, I would imagine.
But it is.
Yeah, it is.
100 years ago, it was a
agree
sump.
there.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the lake is really exposed groundwater. It is not a lake. It's exposed groundwater.
Yeah.
Just a hole in the
Coastal
ground.
pond. And
Yeah.
ultimately, through our efforts, your efforts, let's bring it back to, you know, a state of what it should be.
Especially if someone's going to have a ferry on it, you would think that you don't want them to be worried about falling in the water.
At least fishable and swimmable again. All right?
You know, people
I don't know
could.
if I'd swim in that.
I mean, seriously, when you
15 years from now.
aerosols of the pond could affect
you
certain
get-
people's
But you still have the
respiratory
muck at the
systems.
bottom, so don't put your
There's
feet
still
down.
muck. Don't put your feet in the muck, but
Is it realistic to have a projection of when you would see it to be
Improved.
swimmable but better? I mean, you know,
Oh, yeah, the 50,
Online, I mean-
our target is swimmable. It's a swimmable.
How long, I mean,
Say 5 years or?
Well, our target is to do, is 2018. And the only question in our mind is,
15 years.
do we need to have the medicine or not? At the end of the day, we may need that, if nothing else, to jumpstart it. You know, almost like getting some radiation treatment just to then not have to.
And as the baykeeper, I would
Once it becomes
submit that I'd rather not see the medicine. I think this prescription,
Mhm.
you know, ultimately will work and achieve the goal, as opposed to, you know, try to avoid medicine at all costs, right?
Right.
So my question is, if we're gonna have a boardwalk, can the wetlands that you're creating live under a boardwalk, or?
Of course.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
because
Well,
they're
we
not
would-
gonna get, they won't get light. I mean, that's what I'm.
Just, it's, you know, you're talking about basically a 4-foot, you know, swath through, over
Oh,
grasses.
okay. It's not like a
And
very wide.
depending on what the material
area.
is,
Well, you would,
actually,
and
know, if
you
it's-
could support the boardwalk structurally from the bottom. So it's, you know, it's not sitting on the wetland, if that's your question.
If it's
Yeah, that's what I
a
was
grade
wondering,
of-
because when we were talking about the area that we're picking, you said something about we could cover that and create a really attractive wooden
yeah.
area down there that, you know, you could still use for
The
parks.
materials they use these days, actually, I think DEC in some cases requires it, where it's for light penetration.
It's graded.
You get total growth underneath it because it's more of a grate as opposed to, you know, we're not talking boards that obstruct light penetration.
Yeah, just look at it this way. This area would be sectioned off, okay? At the end of the day, we don't care what's above grade from an engineering point of view, okay? So we would, let's say, have wetland plants, irises are good as well. And then a boardwalk would be designed to just
Oh,
go
that
through
area I'm
it,
not
almost like a
concerned about.
Japanese garden.
I'm not concerned about that area. I'm talking about the area that.
Oh, this one
is-
here?
Yeah.
Well, same concept, if you will, that this would be built, and the only question in my mind is, how do you structurally support the wetland? Excuse me, the boardwalk. That could sit on it? My temptation is no. We would have structural columns.
I think when we do that wetland, that property's, I would find it hard to believe it would be able to use that property for any type of recreational use, right?
No, we were told that it would, as long as it has recreational or the
No,
town.
No, what I'm saying is that the surface living treatment wetland, that area right there is a surface wetland. So you wouldn't be able to walk on it, I don't think. You wouldn't be able to.
Well, that's not.
Well,
what
no,
you
what we
said.
would do there, we could design it.
You
so-
could do walkways around it.
No,
But
we
in the middle of it,
But we could, if it was desired, we could put a path through it.
yeah.
It wouldn't be a problem. I mean, it's money. And structurally, the only question is, how do you structurally support it? And it may be able to be easily supported from the ends. Okay, so, because we're not talking about cars going over it. We're only, you know, it's people walk. So that's the only question in my mind is structure, is how do you structurally hold it up? And the more I think about it, yeah, just put it from, it's not a long span.
Have you seen the steel grate where it's, I mean, the total light penetration?
Oh, I've
so-
seen that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's another way to
So-
do it. This is a
You
whole,
have full growth underneath it. There's no obstruction of light penetration, so.
and you know, that could be designed into the concept of its passive recreation, educational value. So that's the fun part when we go to design. So that would be a design development issue. What needs to be done now is prepare and submit the applications to get the funding. In my discussions with the funding agencies, I was advised that the 50% grant for this is pretty assured. that they routinely give those. Okay, that comes from the Department of State. This is the one that's competitive. It's 90% funded, and they only have, if I remember right, $20 million. So, and it's statewide. So, that's the competition. But the nice thing is that we're dealing with a lot of their categories, and we're going to be pretty unique. I don't think they've seen this type before. So, I think it's got the benefit of they would see its, value for, gee whiz, if it succeeds, it can be replicated in other areas, which, yeah. So there's the, if you would, sizzle from the grant agency. That's how we would set ourselves apart.
So basically, I think you said that it would cost a taxpayer, what, $400 a year? The
Well,
average taxpayer?
again, it depends on the, what percentage of the project. Again, if there was no grants, now I'm assuming 2,000 EDUs for the area. I can't remember for the village. So this is probably the better way to look at it, this number here. Because there's a lot of assumptions here. I think everybody knows what their assessments are. So if you do it this way, then naturally the commercial areas paying shares, et cetera. So,
Yeah.
but and again, if the grant or private donations can, knock that down, then obviously, then you're just talking about the pure O&M, which it's in their report. I can't remember the number. So,
And I'd like to say lastly, through Mr. Polson's generosity to Baykeeper, we've committed significant funds in engaging Lombardo and Associates to develop this plan, and ultimately, I hope the village steps up as well, because it's important. And this is, you look behind you, that's your identifier, Lake Agawam. And I think we have a very good prescription for restoration, and all of us together, I hope we find the means to get it done. Thank you.
So, the risk for the village is really the fees associated with the application. Then, so that's why I put this together. Here's your commitment, and 1/4 that's been committed by private, and Kevin's working on another quarter, and then these are, then the long term. But this won't happen.
But that initial commitment leads to the other funding sources to actually implement. So,
Right. And actually get momentum going. So
definitely, this is a great opportunity, and I hope the village seizes it. Baykeeper's committed to it.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your time.
Right.
Anybody,
Thank you.
I just wanted,
Thank you.
anybody from the audience have any questions for these guys? Yes.
I would just like, I missed the definition of benthic. Could you explain that to me?
Yeah, benthic is the category of at the bottom.
The bottom sediment.
Bottom. Benthic organisms are organisms that live at the bottom of a stream bed or a lake. So in this case, the benthic, all of the benthic organism, now in this case it's the muck, that's at the benthic release is the release of the phosphorus from the bottom area.
So the phosphorus is actually at the bottom of the lake. It's not suspended in the water.
Correct. It's in the
Well,
sediments.
it's both. But the reservoir that's feeding the water is at the bottom.
So the plan is really to take the phosphorus from the bottom of the lake and transfer it to the land.
No, what we're really going to be taking the phosphorus that's in the water column.
From the
Theo, let me
bottom, which
describe
goes
this.
into the water column from the bottom, the benthic action.
It's called sediment flux. The benthic mucks release phosphorus into the water column. So we'll be drawing from the water column ultimately moving it through the wetland to basically uptake the phosphorus. But the source is from the benthos, from the benthic mucks that are in the bottom, releasing phosphorus into the water column.
So am I incorrect in saying that the phosphorus is in the muck at the bottom of the lake, and your plan is to transfer that from the muck at the bottom of the lake to the water?
It's releasing it into the water column.
And then
We're
taking it
drawing
out of the water.
So I'm correct in saying you're taking it from the bottom of the lake and putting it on the land?
No.
And well, yeah, I mean, you could look at it that way. You could look at it, but it's not direct from the bottom. It's from the water column that gets it predominantly from the bottom.
And then my next question
We're
would
not
be-
taking it from the bottom directly. That's its.
I understand, but that's where it's coming from.
Yeah. That's one way
Okay,
to
so
look
my
at
next
it.
question is this. How much phosphorus is in the bottom of the lake?
We don't
How
have the
many-
data.
How many pounds, and how many pounds will this wetland be able to absorb?
Good question. We don't have the data. That's part of this. That step is to get that data, so that because what happens is that there's only a certain thickness that's effective. We don't have. We're going to strip a certain thickness of the sediment. Okay. We don't have the data on what's out there now.
Okay, so it might be possible to load out that treatment wetland
No, again, in 40 years.
in 40 years.
Well, yeah, but it's.
Are
But then you just replace it. It would be just to rejuvenate it, replace it.
Are there any crops that could be planted on the wetland which absorb a whole lot more phosphorus than other plants?
That's been studied quite a bit for the last 3 decades. Generally, you have to harvest it. At the end of the day, it's not a big percentage of the phosphorus removal. Nobody runs a phosphorus removal system like this by harvesting. It's de minimis, and the overall, it's not a lot. Yeah. You could potentially go with plants that take up and then harvest it. The acreage requirement's huge. Huge. This is a highly efficient, compact system. We're focusing on the roots. Again, if you want to harvest it, we would need acres of land. Yes, sir.
When you harvest, are you pulling the roots out of the ground?
No, we're not going to. There's no plans to harvest at all.
Oh, that's only if it gets.
We're not planning to harvest. If anything, I would expect it just to be flowers. There's no plan to harvest. Realistically, in 15 years, the density of the plants may get too thick that you got to thin them out. So they get root bound, if you will. But that's minor. It's really minor stuff. But at the end of the day, there's no significant harvesting going on. Again, maybe in 15 years to thin it out. Does that answer your question? Good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Anyone? Okay. Anybody else from the board? Comments? So really what you're looking for us is about $12,500.
Yes.
Okay.
And to authorize us to act in your behalf as the engineer of record for you.
So what we'll do is go back, we'll just turn this over to Steve and let him go and show where we would do this in the budget. We talked about this before.
Yeah.
And then once he comes back to present it to the board and to get a yay or nay from the board, and we'll go from there.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Excuse me, just so, if I may, what's the timeline on that?
Well, I mean,
When would that happen?
Work on it in the next couple of days, and we can put it on for the 25th.
So then the board would vote on it on June 5th, 25th?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that works.
could do
Yeah,
that.
the application process opens on the 17th.
Okay.
So,
And you're sure that in doing all of this, it's not going, I mean, we're looking at a piece of property that has definitely wetland characteristics that are closer to the pond.
right.
What's closer to the parking lot is not.
Right.
And we're also taking a piece of property, so the part that's closest to the pond we know is wet, and then we have a significant piece of property that isn't. Now we're creating a piece of property that basically is going to be wet, because you're going to have water flowing through it.
Right.
So I need to really know that when you're flowing the water through this property, it isn't going to expand.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
area?
Good question. I should have mentioned, when you look at this, if we get into the, let me call it engineering, this is all lined. Okay?
Oh,
So
okay,
there's
that's
no
important
community,
to know.
there'll be a landfill liner underneath it. So there's no communication of the water between here and the groundwater. No other area will know that there's a water there. It'll all be contained. And I'll be happy to come to your next meeting and show you photographs of something like this in construction. So,
I'd like to see that.
yeah, I'll be happy to do that.
I mean,
And
we all know that that area, I mean, at least we've been told that that area really, all the way down to where Walbaum's is a very, very shallow,
depth to groundwater.
yes.
Right.
And we all believe that at one point it was wet, and
And
it was
from-
filled.
We think so, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my concern, I'm glad that you said that, because my concern was we're taking what we think is a dry piece of property and now making it wet, and what effect would that have? But if there's a liner there,
Right.
that makes a difference.
We haven't gone through, this is what some of the things that would be done with the funding. One option would be, we don't want to dewater the site, because that's expensive. So we're going to want to dig down to where the water level is, put the liner in there, and then build up from there. So there may be some height to it down here. Or we may say, we don't want to use that, because it's going to cost too much and it won't look. So we may trim it back here, but there's no communication with anything else. Nobody's going to know that water is there. No adjacent lands, okay?
I just don't want my
So, but those are, those are the details that we would have to work out. But think of it this way, everything's going to be above the water table. And we may have it deeper here and shallower here, just to make it look all contiguous. But I'm sorry, I should have mentioned, and I'll be happy to come at the late June meeting and show you actual construction photos of how these things are built.
Well, you really don't, your top surface isn't soft because you're using material underneath that has bacteria on it that's eating
The top is, frankly, you can walk on it.
So the top is not.
Yeah, I should have mentioned, thank you, is that the water level is going to be about a foot below the surface of the top. So you
I'm
can walk on
picturing
it.
this to be like wetlands now.
No,
You're creating
no,
all
no.
wetlands down
Yeah,
there.
I understand. No, good
that's-
point.
It's underneath.
Oh,
You can walk on it.
Oh, okay.
The water, you're not going to be walking.
Can
What's
we
that?
bocce ball on it? We have a request for a bocce.
Right.
We do, we have a request for a bocce court down there.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, the water level is below the surface, and we're going to be above the existing groundwater surface. Okay. So it'll be a bowl.
You plan on using this entire property?
We'd like to. That's our initial calculations are we need this part for the stormwater system, and if we can put the lake one here, that may be big enough. But see, we don't even have data on the stormwater quality. And I mean, we're doing some preliminary stuff. So, so this is, let me call it something in the hip pocket to have, and it's a cost game. We're going to be, which is the least costly option. And this is where you get the twofer, where it'll functionally help, and then you've now expanded the recreational value of that area.
Because it still has walkable area on top, so that doesn't
Right.
preclude any future possible use or something down the road.
Right.
It doesn't change like DEC wetland setbacks or anything,
No.
anything.
No. If the trustees agree with this, that goes a long way. And again, we're using it as part of a purification technique. So it's going to be unique for them. But, you know, in this business, when there's a will, there's a way. And so that's really the journey that, you know, we would be on with you. But again, this is a bowl.
Are there other examples of communities, lakes, ponds that have done this so that you could show us, well, here's where they did it, here's how it ends up, what it looks like? Or is this a new territory?
This is new. For the lake, this is new territory. The standard techniques are use chemicals. That's the standard technique.
You're not going to use chemicals?
No.
No, we're going to try to avoid it as much as possible. And this is the way you avoid it as much as possible. Now, people are now experimenting with this technique, but the jury's out.
Kevin, didn't they use chemicals in Mill Pond?
They have,
Right.
actually.
Yeah.
What they use there, Vito?
Phosphorus. Phosphorus.
Phosphorus, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
What's the success of that?
I don't think they've been able to measure it yet. Too early. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is a much better way, especially you won't see it.
Won't see it.
Be underground.
It's always going to be working for you. So I like it because it's always there. So the only question.
Plant uptake as opposed to chemicals.
Right.
Well, they use it also on septic systems by ponds, freshwater ponds in upstate New York.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah,
they
they're
have,
using them now.
We have engineered constructed wetlands for wastewater treatment for nitrogen and phosphorus removal for the last 25 years.
Yeah.
So we use this technique for treating wastewater and taking it out of wastewater. So, so this is not new in that regard. The real challenge here is we got to go to low levels, very low levels. And the other question is, how long is it going to take for that stuff to strip itself? Because, you know, it's going to go, once it starts stripping, then it's going to decrease how fast it releases. So, and some of that stuff is not, I don't look in chapter 2 in the book, and it says this. There's very little data on that. So there'll be some judgments made.
How deep do you have to go there?
Excuse me?
How deep do you have to go down on that property in order to create what you, your
groundwater.
bowl?
You want to go to groundwater.
Well, ideally, we
that could
like to have, I think we assumed 5-6 feet when we did our preliminary calculations. So a simple way to look at this is we're going to have a 5 to 6 foot depth area. And if I played it simple, I'll just put a wall here to build it up. Well, probably not going to do that. We may taper it. So those, then now you talk about site engineering. Okay. Or ideally, tear down the house and that land would be better. And leave this alone.
What portion of the phosphorus?
I knew I would get a reaction to that.
What portion of the phosphorus?
Don't go there.
Oh, I'm okay with it. I like that idea.
You know, because that gives us another acre of land, I believe. That fence, and that's higher ground.
But you know what? That land was purchased to be used by the parks. That's, yeah.
We can enhance that functional value. And if you're getting a grant to help you do that, I mean, that's the sweet spot. That's when I heard it from the mayor about, I says, wow. Then a little magic may happen.
And if this actually proves efficient, then this could lead into sewage treatment, because this is one of those alternatives. Because you spoke at the AIA, didn't you?
Right.
I remember,
Yes.
I remember this, where they were using this for sewage treatment.
Right.
Upstate, would you say upstate?
That's right.
So.
Yeah, we engineered
this
a.
could be testing for more than just the lake, but for other.
Right.
Yeah.
Larger.
That's exactly. Yeah, we engineered a 20-acre wetland.
Perfectly clear in saying that you don't mean sewage treatment into the lake.
Right,
You
no.
mean
No. I'm
separate
talking about the
unit
concept.
someplace
Exactly.
else.
No, but
That's
the
right.
concept, the filtration concept.
Exactly. I mean, we've been doing this since 1985, and so, you know, you've got that state-of-the-art improvement that we're applying here, and you're right. You know, the size requirements of wetlands have gone down by a factor of 10 as people have understood the science better.
Yeah.
So that's really what you're getting, a high performance. It's just.
One last quick question. To what extent are the waterfowl responsible, if at all, for the phosphorus in the lake? And then how do you remove them?
I think hunting season is not a bad idea. But there is a section in the report where I did all the calculations.
Your granddaughter just had a horrible look on her face, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you just said that.
She
was horrified.
Line up along the park?
Well, if you look on page 66 and 67, we go through the calculations. Let me just say, it's not insignificant. Now, the way they put up signs, they have dogs, you want to scare them and not get them used to, just like the gentleman on the hens, you want them not to want to be there.
Well, how does one do that?
So you put the signs up so that waterfowl don't go in there. So
Well,
read the sign, they go to
there's a
another
whole
part of
variety of, let me call them soft techniques. But you got to scare them away.
Silhouettes.
Yeah. And for instance, they say, maintain a buffer of high grasses along the edge. So there's ways to do it, but it's, and it's more you got to make it miserable for them to be there.
Well, we like our ducks.
What's this?
We like our ducks. We like our ducks.
There are a lot of people who do like the
Well,
ducks, so
I'm not talking about the duck. Well, again,
You're mostly thinking geese.
So we're in a losing battle right now as we discuss this. So
There we go,
it is
there we
a component in the back there.
Dr. James Hoffman from Stony Brook has done a proposal to clean the Lake Agawam. Have you looked at that proposal?
who was it?
Dr. James Hoffman.
No, I haven't. I'm not aware of that. Is it published?
Yeah, he's got a published paper on it. It's specifically Lake Agawam.
Is he at Stony Brook?
He's at Stony Brook.
Right here in Southampton?
No, the main campus.
How do you spell his last name?
Hoffman.
Hoffman? Yeah, I'm not aware of it. And I didn't see it in any of it. Was it in the last 5 years?
Yeah, he's teaching it currently.
Okay,
He's-
we'll be happy to make contact, yeah, because it wasn't referenced in any of the documents. It was not referenced in you had the watershed management plan prepared just a few years ago. So, but be happy to look at it.
Have you looked at the DEC and the Suffolk County Board of Health research? Because they monitor it.
Yes, yeah. Their primary focus is on the cyanobacteria, which is more of a health concern. So that's their focus, and that's Professor Gobler's expertise. In particular, is those cyanobacteria. So they're dealing with extreme degradation. We don't want to even be there. If we're dealing with those, we haven't done anything. So there should be. We have calculations in the document of how many we don't want to exceed. There's a number we don't want more than.
They also test the Suffolk County Board of Health also tests the kinds of algae,
Right.
phytoplankton. They also test the diffused oxygen, and they also do some other things.
Right. Again, their focus is heavily health.
Right.
And we don't even want to be in that zone. If we're in that zone, we haven't, we have to stay out of that zone. Because then you can't swim in it. You really, you got to be careful about touching kids. It's to some extent it's dangerous. So, great. Well, thank you. I'll be happy to, and if it's okay with you, Mayor, I'll just plan on the May 26th and bring some construction photos.
Would be
So you
great.
can see them. Okay. Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you, P.O. and Kevin. Greatly appreciate
Thank you
that.
for having us.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Great.
Good evening, Nick Palumbo, 380 Hill Street, Southampton. And my daughter Natalie is here assisting me with the audiovisual. I'm here tonight representing a group that's calling itself the Agawam Ferry Company. The purpose of our effort is threefold. Essentially, we're primarily looking to celebrate the life of an important Southampton resident in our local history named Pyrus Conser, who was born 200 years ago next year. We're going to talk a little bit more about his life a little later on, if the board will indulge me. Our second goal is to promote awareness and contribute to efforts to examine and preserve the ecological health of the lake and the village, as was just referenced here earlier. And thirdly, we'd like to serve as a fun, community-oriented event that will positively engage residents and visitors alike and spur activity for downtown business establishments. So, as a prelude here, I'd like to just play a short video about the life of Pyrus Conser, who was the inspiration for the idea of the project that my daughter also made. It's about 4 minutes long.
The Pyrus Conser Project is a grassroots effort to bring people to the story of a fascinating and inspiring individual named Pyrus Conser. Before describing the project, I'd like to first share with you a brief summary of that story. Pyrus Conser was born here in Southampton, New York on March 17, 1814. Today, Southampton is known worldwide for its fantastic beaches and its reputation as a summer getaway for the wealthy and famous. Southampton also, however, has a rich historical legacy which stretches back to the Native American peoples of the area, including the Shinnecock tribe, who are still active members of the community today, and to its founding as the first English settlement in New York State in 1640. During Pyrus Conser's time, Southampton was predominantly a farming and fishing economy. He was born a slave to slave parents owned by the Pelletreau family in a house overlooking Agawam Pond, which still stands today, and lived the first years of his life working on their farm. Slavery in New York State was outlawed in 1827, and Pyrus became a free man. At age 18, he signed on to a whaling expedition out of nearby Sag Harbor, New York, which was then a prominent whaling port where many ambitious young men sought their fortune. In addition to the possibility of adventure and wealth, the diverse whaling community offered gainful employment opportunities not otherwise available to people of color in that era. In May of 1848, Pyrus Conser sailed out of Sag Harbor as a boat steerer aboard the whaling ship Manhattan, captained by one of Southampton's most renowned historical figures, Mercator Cooper, whose home today sits on the site of the local public library. That 3-year voyage was another leg in a remarkable life journey. After traveling by sail over 18,000 nautical miles in search of the great sperm whales and their treasure of oil, the Manhattan ventured into the Pacific waters south of Japan, where Captain Cooper landed at the unpopulated island of St. Peter's, known today as the Bonin Islands, in search of fresh food for his crew. In addition to the turtle meat they found there, the Manhattan's crew also discovered, to their surprise, a total of 22 shipwrecked Japanese sailors who, once they realized they would not be killed, boarded the Manhattan for transport back to Japan. At this time in history, Japan was completely closed to the Western world, and the Manhattan was surrounded by Japanese warships in Tokyo Bay. It was only through careful diplomacy and challenging translation that a peaceful exchange was made. Pyrus Conser's role in this effort should not be underestimated. It was said that the Japanese sailors, and ultimately even the emperor when he came aboard, were astounded by Conser's dark skin and soothed by his melodic voice when he sang to them his slave tunes and spirituals. The Manhattan encounter and the map they obtained is in part credited in paving the way for Commodore Matthew Perry's breakthrough visit to Japan 8 years later. Following this grand adventure, Pyrus Conser went on to travel with another group of Southamptonites to California during the Great Gold Rush of 1849. That party did not strike it rich. Eventually, Conser returned to his native Southampton, where he married his wife Rachel and lived out the rest of his life in a small cottage on Lake Agawam. In his later years, he supplemented his income by operating a small sailing vessel which transported passengers back and forth across Agawam from the village to the beach. Pyrus Conser died in Southampton on August 23, 1897, at the age of 84. In his will, he left an endowment for the First Presbyterian Church of Southampton to be used for the purpose of Christian education. Pyrus Conser is buried in the North End graveyard with one of the most distinctive markers among the mostly plain headstones. The inscription on it reads, "Though born a slave, he possessed virtues, without which kings are but slaves." To celebrate the 200th birthday of this remarkable man, we would like to re-establish a ferry boat service to traverse Lake Agawam during the summer of 2014. This boat, which would be christened the Pyrus Conser, would serve as a living legacy to a remarkable man, and be a reminder to all that great voyages can be undertaken by those bold enough to sail forth, yet grounded enough to return home again.
So I don't know how much of that was lost with the audio, but you get the basic idea. We're looking to honor Pyrus Concert and his legacy by reestablishing a ferry service which would operate next summer, ideally. We've put a group together to achieve that goal. The steering committee at this point involves a number of local residents, a few of whom are here tonight: Ed Simeone, Mark Parrish, Josh Bellori, also Sean Hattrick, and Kevin Luss are involved in trying to make this come together. To this point, we've spoken to a number of civic and cultural groups, including the Historical Museum, the Lake Agawam Conservation Association, the First Presbyterian Church, the East End African American History Museum, Brenda Simmons, the Rotarians of Southampton, the Eastville Community Historical Society, the Bathing Corp, and the Southampton Town Historian, all of whom have expressed support in one form or another for the idea. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback. There's been 2 stories now, one in the Patch and one in the press. We've gotten a lot of positive response to that. We have a website that we've put together, which is agawamferry.org. It's had about 538 visitors so far to that site as of this afternoon. We've got 46 likes on Facebook, 6 followers on Twitter. We need to work on that, Natalie. So our objective, our hope, is to have an electric ferry boat, which would be emissions-free, quiet, stable operation, similar to what's on our website right now. I can pass around the boat that we're looking at, something of this scale. Appearance. It could work nicely, but that's one of the things that's still being discussed. Our plan is to charge for passage on the ferry $5 per trip. I just want to make clear, though, that this is not a commercial enterprise in any way. We're hoping to offset the cost of the ferry operation through charging fees to ride on the boat. And you actually can pre-purchase tickets for the ferry as part of our fundraising campaign on the website. So essentially, we think that this idea is in keeping with some of the things that really make Southampton great and make people want to come here, such as the concerts in the park, the holiday parade, fireworks on the beach, that sort of thing. And that's our objective. We've done a lot of thinking about this and a lot of talking about it, but there's still a lot of things that we don't know. We're here tonight to ask for the village's input and support of the idea, and we're going to get to work.
Great.
And I don't know if any of the members of the steering committee would like to make any remarks, but they're here tonight, and we can answer questions or try to.
See, when we cut the lights on real quick. You guys have any questions or comments or?
Yeah, one, when I was reading the original article, you talk about having a, I guess, a dock or something. So is that something that you're looking to construct, or is that something that's going to be worked along with what the other gentleman just talked about before you came
Actually,
up with
no,
the
that
model?
was
Is
sort of coincidental that was on the agenda tonight. We haven't had any conversations with that group yet, but yeah, I think it ties in very nicely. You know, I'm not sure about the time frame. You know, I don't know if they would be in construction for that element of it yet. But in looking at it, I think that the lake actually lays out very well for what we're looking to do. A boat of that scale could be accommodated quite easily, I think, with some of the existing structures on the lake. We're looking at a landing point that would be at the northwest corner, essentially, where the monument to Pyrus Concert is now. There's a concrete bulkhead there. There's a floating dock there. Yeah.
Anyway,
Which
Which I thought we weren't allowed to go
Right.
on, according to the town.
We're looking to get an architect involved to help us and you know, make the determination of what sort of modifications might need to be made. But we expect it to be relatively minor, and we would hope to absorb the cost of those improvements if necessary. So we're not looking to the village for money to support this. We're just looking for your approval and your guidance.
You'd also have to have a plug in there.
Yeah, sure. There would be some just minor electrical hookup, but again, we already have solicited volunteers who are electricians who could help out with that if the village was all right with it. we would look to make those modifications as part of our fundraising effort.
I mean, I think it's a great idea. I applaud you and your efforts here in doing the research and the work that you've done. The website is phenomenal. The presentation is great. The committee that you put together are all great local people that I think it's a tribute to someone who played a significant role in the history of the village. And I'm just very impressed with what you've done. I really am. And I think that it would be personally a great thing to do to celebrate his life.
Thank you. It's a great story, and that was really what led me to sort of work through the idea. And we've gotten to this point. I'd like to share the story with more people. I think it's phenomenal.
Would it only be for that summer of 2014, or would it be every year?
I think what we talked about initially was doing it next summer to sort of coincide with his birthday. But as I mentioned in my discussions with the press, I think if it were successful, we would certainly be open to the possibility of operating it beyond next summer if everyone was supportive of it. And I think the initial startup costs are the challenge, so at that point it would be self-sustaining and it would make sense.
And you're not looking for any money from the village, just
no, we're not.
Our approval.
That's right.
Do you know where you're going to get the boat?
We've looked at a number of different options there. There's a village resident actually who's agreed to donate a boat, but we haven't worked out the particulars there. We're not sure where we're going to land on the fundraising side of things, so that's going to influence the ultimate decision.
This particular boat?
That particular boat is sort of our target, and that would be optimal, I think, for what we're looking to do. And if the funds are not an issue, then it'll be something very much like that.
So I know you set up you have the 501c3 application.
Yes.
So that, all the donations are all charitable donations and tax deductible. And
that's correct.
And it's get your own insurance, and the village would be protected that way.
That's right.
So
actually, one other thing that we were looking to ask the village for would be permission to put a sign up in the park, perhaps as early as this summer, to sort of generate some interest toward the fundraising effort and to, again, sort of tell the story.
Have you talked with any of the residents on the lake?
We have, actually, through their representation in the form of the Lake Agawam Conservation Association, and so they've given us their blessing for it.
How many trips do you think you'd take a day?
What did we work out? We were doing some preliminary calculations on that. We were figuring, remember?
10 to 6, you figure you do 2 trips an hour?
Yeah, so 2 trips an hour over the course of,
8
a
hours.
summer day.
Ooh, that's a long day then.
That's depending on
Yeah.
everything weather-wise and stuff like that, but I think that's possible.
Is that every day?
That we're not sure yet.
Yeah.
Right?
So again, we were initially targeting just next summer for the months of July and August, and so the operational schedule is not something that.
Every day or just weekends?
I think we scheduled being on Tuesday and Wednesday, something like that. That would be 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're kind of figuring that out. There's a lot that we need to do.
I think the biggest thing tonight, if I
Yeah,
can just
sure.
say, is the idea.
Yeah.
Just bring the idea
Yeah.
here and say, okay, how can you guys help us get this idea going? Because it's tremendous. There's Paris Concert. There's Agawam, which you just saw, which is considered the jewel of Southampton. And then the community. I mean, imagine getting off the beach, hopping onto a boat, cruising back, looking at these beautiful houses, getting off, walking to the World War II monument, coming to the end of our beautiful park and going, where is Southampton going to take us now? I think it's a great idea. I think it's an idea that is unique and we can take it and the village can take it and move forward with it.
Yeah, part of what appealed to me about the idea, I mean, having grown up in Southampton my whole life and being out on the water all the time, I had never been out on that body of water. And it just interested me that did take place. And when I was reading about his story and learned that he actually operated a ferry service, it seemed to me like that's something that we've really lost as part of our culture. And I think, it's a good time to bring it back. And I've just recently been out on Agawam with a kayak. I'm not sure if I took my life in my hands, but we went out there, and it really is magnificent to see the homes from the water and to see the views of the park and the beach from the water. It's completely amazing.
Those little boats, I've been on them. They're really quite wonderful. And I just was curious, though, they are a plug-in, and I wondered how long that would last. I don't know if that would last for 2 trips a day, 8 hours.
I have the specifications for that boat here, and I think you do get a full day of operation with
Oh,
with a
that's
single
good,
charge.
yeah.
Yeah, they're really quite efficient,
Yeah, they're
very
really
quiet, and a nice boat to
Very
operate.
quiet.
And that boat has a solar collector on the canopy.
Yeah.
So it's ongoing.
No, they're great little
And we have a
boats.
couple of people who live around Lake Agawam. I don't know if anybody had any comments, homeowners.
I was just concerned about the frequency, but I mean, I think I think the historical context is wonderful. I like the idea of it being a community sharing experience. I think it would be really fun. I mean, I personally have no problem with it at all.
Okay.
I think it would be beautiful. I do. I wonder though, if the village opens itself up to a larger question similar to the surf camp thing. Or are we then gonna have something about it?
I did want to differentiate us from that conversation. As I
Yeah.
say, this is not a commercial enterprise. It's a community event, and we're only looking to collect a fare to sort of offset the cost of it.
What's the capacity maximum?
Depends. The boat that I shared with you is a 12-passenger ferry operation. So I think that's along the lines of what we're looking to do scale-wise.
Now, would we put 12 or would we put less? 'Cause I know captains, Josh, what are you talking about, a 6-pack, some of your Sea Scouts?
Right. I was brought in because we would need someone to actually run the ferry, and so my Sea Scouts or the group at the Conscious Point Shellfish Hatchery, the young men and young women are very interested in having that position. It would require them getting what they call a 6-pack license, which means you're allowed to take 6 passengers at a time. And that would be the minimum captain's license. And it would be relatively easy to get for these young people that are spending so much time on the water now.
You may want to check on that because I think if you're using younger kids, they can have a launch license.
Well, they're 21, 22, 18, 19.
I think you can do it with a simple launch license.
Oh, so a simple launch and not having to have.
Yeah, there's a launch operator's license.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, I need to look into that.
Yeah,
That's great.
because they aren't going offshore. They're, you know.
As I said, there's a lot of things that we still need to work out. We wanted to start here and get approval of the village, and we will research all of those variables and make sure that we have everything set up. We have a year to pull this together, so I think it's very doable. We've got some good people working on it.
Yeah. What I'd like to do tonight is do a resolution to show support of the Agawam Ferry company and the process and allow us to open up the lines of communication and support what they're trying to accomplish here. So I'd like to make a motion that the village board supports the Agawam Ferry Company and their plans for the summer of 2014 to develop a ferry service back and forth.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Is it all right if I vote for this? There's no problem with that, is there?
There's no problem at all.
Thank you very much.
You can proudly vote for that. Yes.
We're sure it's limited to just one boat.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we're planning.
Yes. Yeah, okay. No, we don't want a whole, we're not.
Fleet. We're not
I mean,
looking for a
it's
fleet.
more of a historical piece that, talks about our history.
I mean, along that line, I mean, because the last two questions from the homeowners are leaning towards that. Are there currently, because I don't know the answer to this, any restriction from boat usage on there? I mean, this, outside of this concept, but private boating, kayaks, anything, rowboat, are there any current restrictions?
In response to that, Rich, just my own observation, which I hadn't realized until I went out on the kayak, is that a lot of the homeowners around the lake actually do have either kayaks and I saw at least one vessel similar to what we're looking at here. I'd never seen it out on the water, but there's one tied up at a home on the west shore of Agawam.
The trustees have a launch on the on the side.
I think police sometimes will go out on them.
And
So apparently it's
they
allowable.
have there's fishing tournaments that occur on there.
There's a boat launch actually on the south end of the lake.
Yeah.
So, you know, which goes along with your proposal to use a boat and ferry. There's nothing, you know, foreign, because it is already, from what you've observed, some boat activity.
Yeah. And certainly historically, it was actively used back in the 1800s. Lots of sailboats and things like that.
Do you think, though, I mean, these are all these little things that have to be worked out, but if you were to pull it up at a dock, let's say off of Pond Lane, we have that area there, if that's doable, what would you do at night with it? I mean, you'd have to...
It'd be tied up like...
Yeah.
It would stay on the lake for the duration of the summer.
People worried about it, that's all, I mean.
No booze cruises?
No booze cruise. Nick didn't respond.
Well, no, actually, it was an idea that was put forward as a possible fundraising opportunity that there would be, yeah. And so for the right price, that was consideration.
Phosphorus-free beer.
Unless you drop it in the water.
Actually, it's actually a very nice party boat, by the way.
It would be.
I mean, for people who wanted to take a little cruise in the evening.
It's going to be a nice trip, I think. And actually, the only negative response that I have gotten from people are, you know, how are you going to prevent people from using this as an easy access to the beach? People who don't want to pay for the permit, that kind of thing. And, you know, are you going to get droves of people parking at the park trying to get to the beach? And my reaction to that is that, you know, this is not going to be the cheapest way to get to the beach. It's not going to be the fastest way to get to the beach, but it'll be the most scenic way to get there. And so that's sort of what we're targeting. And we're not looking to ferry, you know, mass groups of people over to the beach.
If you limit it to 6 to 12, I mean, you're not, really.
Well, ever since the day you first presented, I've been in love with this. Is a great project, and I can't salute you enough for.
We're excited about it, and if you're supportive, we're going to move forward.
You have a resolution from the village board, and
thank you.
Roll the bones.
There you go.
Right.
Thanks for all your work. All of you.
Good.
And nice work on the
Yes,
computer,
nice work
audio
on the,
visual.
yeah. Okay, so we're going to go back to guinea hens here. So,
Back to the hens.
Back to the hens.
there you go.
Nobody here but us chickens.
That's right.
It's a mixed bag this day, huh? It's a mixed bag.
Yeah. I like your personal input to the Boeing and the 16, what was it, the special license you offered, the launch license?
A six-pack can only can take 6 people. Actually, 5 in the captain.
Hello.
Okay.
Your launch license.
So, Rick, did you had a chance to review all of this?
Yeah, I looked at the code section that we're dealing. Have you looked at this code section?
Yeah, I had the ordnance inspectors out at the property to make sure that it wouldn't. Brenda, I think I spoke to you a number of times on the phone. I couldn't figure out who to call, who to talk to about it, and kind of got the runaround around town. And when they came to the property, they showed me that that particular piece of information.
Okay. The starting point is you have to make an application to the Board of Trustees for a temporary permit. And we don't have it. So that's going to be your first step, is to make a written application.
Okay.
I'm sure the building department doesn't have a form for it. But it can be in the form of a letter to the Board of Trustees, but you have to provide the information that's called for by the provisions in this section of the code. You know, so you're going to have to request a temporary permit for what you want. You're going to have to tell us what type of livestock, what the purpose is, the number of livestock. We're going to need a survey of your property. This is, you can have this back. This is
That's
not a survey.
Just a lighting, yeah, exactly. Let me grab that.
We'll need a survey of your property with the letter of application. One of the provisions in this code section is for an appropriate enclosure sufficient to assure that the livestock cannot escape. And so you're going to have to show on the survey your proposed enclosure, where it will be located, etc. I mean, the photograph and stuff you submitted here give give an idea of what you're talking about, but you're gonna have to show it on a survey.
Okay.
And then, this is a zoning application which requires a formal public hearing. So once we receive an application, it's gonna have to be, the village will have to advertise a public hearing notice in the Southampton Press. That notice has to be published. I better look back to a different section now. So the village will have to publish a notice in the newspaper at least 10 days before the formal public hearing. And then you are going to have to mail written notice of the date, time, and place of the hearing to every property owner adjacent to your property and opposite to your property for a distance of 200 feet from the perimeter of your property. And then you're going to have to provide, that notice has to be by certified or registered mail, return receipt requested. It's the same type of application that is made to the zoning board, and that notice has to be, it's your responsibility to mail that notice. You'll have to get the names and addresses of the property owners that you have to mail to. The building department office should be able to help you with that. They do it all the time for other zoning applications. So we can't really have a public hearing until we have your application and survey, and then we advertise it, and you mail notice of it, and then we can have the hearing. So we have this. The process hasn't even started yet.
So who would I send the letter for the temporary permit to?
Yes, send it to the Board of Trustees, but
Okay.
file it with Steve, the village administrator.
Okay.
It would be helpful if you filed several copies when you file it, so that Steve can then send me one and
Okay.
a survey, and I can help with the public hearing notice, preparing that. And then, okay. I don't know if we have there's a fee for this application. I don't know what the amount is. The code just says it shall be as established from time to time by resolution of the Board of Trustees. I don't know if we have a fee schedule for this or not, so I don't know what the fee is, but whatever it is, you'll have to pay that. And then at the public hearing, you can present your reasons for it, but we have to have the basic stuff.
Okay.
Now, just looking at timing, I don't know when you were hoping to be able to do this.
I don't think we're getting guinea hens. To tell you the truth, yeah. It's I think this one may just be put on the back burner for a little while. We'll get some plastic ones for the girls or something. But it all seems good and well, but unless they really want these guinea hens, I don't think I'll be coming back to try and get any guinea hens.
Start early for next year.
Actually, when did you start this? When did you start reaching out to the village?
About a month ago, yeah. So, and I'm new to the area, so I bounced around. Everyone kept putting me onto other people, and then I got hold of Brenda religiously every day for about a week, and then something happened. So the other thing is turkeys also eat ticks, so you may see an influx of wild turkeys in the Meadow Lane area. No, we won't do that. I promise.
You're on camera.
The neighbors are.
Yeah, so I'll talk to the owners, and if they want to go ahead with it, then we will. And but I highly doubt we'll. They don't want anything in the newspaper, so I don't think we'll be advertising anything like that.
Okay.
So, but thank you very much for your time. It's been educational.
Okay.
Interesting. Now I know.
And we know for next year. So maybe it's a 2014 project.
There you go.
Cool. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
So something like that basically goes through like a process like the ZBA, but we'd be deciding on the actual.
Yeah, it comes
the
to
animal.
you. It's like a
We're
zoning
deciding-
board application.
But we
only.
decided because it's because of the animals.
Pardon?
It comes to us because of the animals part of it.
Yes.
Because actually, it's also a permanent structure he's putting on here, too.
Well, that would be their part of it, though, the
Yeah.
building department, I would imagine.
But they have, didn't he say
But
they had
it's-
5 acres?
Yeah, but where they want to do it is probably also within that wetland setbacks and.
Oh, if he's in wetlands, he's gonna need a wetland special permit and everything
Yeah,
else.
I was just looking at, if she's looking at the picture, they're right by the tennis court here.
Close.
Yeah, it's close to it, yeah. Okay. Huh.
Good concept, but a lot more involved.
Yeah.
Within 150 feet of wetlands, he's gonna need a wetland special permit.
Yeah.
If that's where he's putting it.
Right.
Expensive getting is.
Yeah. What the ticks are.
Our problem.
Yeah, it's an interesting
Usually in a
solution
natural way.
to,
Yeah.
yeah.
They work. There's a lot of people that,
Good.
oh, yeah. On the North Fork, there's a lot of people with guinea hens.
Really.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting concept, actually.
Mhm.
Okay. End up with more guinea hens and deer in the village.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay,
Let's
we
go
have
to
two communications to the board.
here. Yeah.
First one, at the end of summer 2012, I wrote the mayor a letter that I wanted presented at one of the bi-monthly village council meetings. Unfortunately, the nature of my work precluded me from a committed attendance in person. Although I never received any follow-up response to my original letter, I do understand that both issues I addressed were already under consideration by the council. To reiterate, I am a property owner at 62 Culver Street, the second house from First Neck. My driveway can accommodate 2 vehicles. However, on occasion, I would like to be able to park on the street in front of my house. Usually, I'm unable to park in front of my house due to the fact that the space is occupied by a car owned by one of the tenants of 61 Culver Street. Furthermore, since there is no curb, the edge grass is often damaged by the parked cars. My original request for the council to consider posting a no parking sign, or at least one at limited parking from the corner of First Neck into the driveway marking the edge of my property, approximately 100-meter distance. In such a fashion, I could accommodate family and guests to my home, particularly those who may not be so ambulatory. The second query I had was whether the council plans to take a position as to the location of rooming houses in the village. In other words, can anyone, regardless of their age, open a rooming house to the public, transient or otherwise, in the village of Southampton? Please advise. Dr. Robert Quigley.
I think that rooming house has been there for a long time.
Sorry?
I think the rooming house that he's talking about has been there for a long time. I think it's a pre-existing. Because that would be the first house, I think. Is that on the side of the Southampton Club, do you know?
I don't know.
I know there's one there.
Is a rooming house there?
Well, I think there's one there. I think there's one that has many apartments in it, or
I don't think so.
rooms. Well, I remember from years ago. 'Cause I remember it was for sale, or they were thinking about selling it years ago, and we went, and it was, they were using it that way. No?
I don't know.
Well, he's saying there is one there.
He may be referring to the Southampton Club.
Oh, do you think he is?
Could be.
Okay, because I think, did he say he was the first or the second house?
He's the
Second house from First Neck.
Yeah.
But there is one, there's one very close to the, on the same side as the Southampton Club. But they have their own little parking lot there, don't they? The Southampton Club, so it really
The
wouldn't
club?
have anything to
Yep.
do with the street. So,
And then again, if he wants a no parking sign in front of his house, that would mean he wouldn't be
Well,
able to park either.
That's,
you're right, I don't
that
get
one,
that.
well, it's no parking, but he wants to be able to park, that's, you
Yeah,
can
that
either
I
park
don't
on the road or you can't, and,
You can't, it's not personal private parking, that's what your driveway's for, unfortunately. I mean, I know what he's saying, but and you can't, again, it can't be a no parking sign, but only for a homeowner. It's either parking or not.
Well, I
Public
think
street.
his point was that he was allowed to have 2 spaces. That's what I think he said. Did he not say that in here?
There's
My
two
comment-
spaces in
my-
His driveway.
Yeah, 2 vehicles. And then I think his point is, if it's a rooming house, they're obviously parking on the street, and I don't know how many people are in there. You know, and I think that was his point about the location of rooming houses in the village.
I don't know what the house is zoned for. I don't know what the CO says.
Yeah, I don't know. I just
Alright.
remember there was a house there that they were using it that way.
So we get the CO from John so we can see what the house is.
61.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but, you know, either if we put no parking there, he can't park there.
Right.
So, that street
Right.
gets, in the cultural center, people park, and then they have the events, they park up and down Culver Street on that side. It's overflow parking for,
Yeah.
you know.
Right.
So I would be opposed to making any of
Yeah,
that area.
I'd want to
no
go over
parking.
and take a look at it before we,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, I think, I'm
Okay.
not, I agree with you on that, because people do go up there from the cultural center and park
Yeah.
there. But I'd want to see what you're talking about.
Okay.
Okay. Second one is our parish has just started the sale of raffle tickets to help support Alpha Silva, and would like to ask you permission to set up a table on one of 2 Saturdays. We would keep the table off to the south side of the steps as we did in 2008 and not interfere with any village businesses. Weather permitting, we would like to do this on the first Saturdays in July and August. This will be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We'd also request, if we have inclement weather, to do the same on next Saturday. Thank you in advance for your consideration on this matter. Charles Matern, Basilica of the Sacred Hearts of Jesus and Mary.
Steps, what, here, Village Hall or the
In front
church?
of Village Hall. Yeah. I don't have a problem with this. Does anybody have a?
I don't have a problem with it.
All right, so let me make a motion to approve the Basilica of the Sacred Hearts of Jesus and Mary to set up a raffle table in front of Village Hall for first Saturdays in July. Right? They want, well, for dates to be determined, we'll work with them on.
Okay.
Okay.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolutions, item 1, resolve the reading of the minutes for the work session of May 21st, 2013 be dispensed with, and those minutes be accepted as filed by the village administrator. The actions taken that meeting be and here are ratified and approved. Have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved the claims for the warrants dated June 13th, 2013, totaling $679,092.24. Warrant 1, general fund, $521,556.71. Warrant 2, general fund payables, $5,250. Warrant 1, trust fund expense, $17,373.96. Warrant 1, trust fund, $3,501.36. Warrant 1, capital reserve fund, and $91,383.79. Warrant 1, firehouse bond fund, and the village payrolls for the period from May 17th to June 13th be ordered and approved. Have a motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Item 1, we have 2 payments to 71 Hill LLC, the June and July rent, $4,635 each payment, and that's for the building inspector's office. Page 5, JEMC deposit for PR work for the September festive 2013, $5,500. Page 7, Patricia Munn, Medicare reimbursement, $1,710. Page 8, PERMA, workman's comp for the 2013-2014 year, $611,479. Page 10, Software Consulting Associates, annual maintenance agreements for the tax software, $5,500. Sprague, 3,100 gallons of gasoline, $9,149.96. Warrant 2, general fund payables, Miguel Aldrich, $1,000 medical reimbursement for fire department volunteer. Atlantic Coast Embroidery, T-shirts for DPW, $1,684.57. Page 2, Bartlett Tree Experts, maintenance of the beech tree down on Shinnecock Reservation, $1,718. Page 4, Gas Productions, May Videography, 1,401.65. Chesterfield Associates, repairs to Munns Point Boardwalk, 9,626. Page 5, Coastal Fire Systems, firefighters hoods, 1,177.50. Cook Marin Insurance Installment, 22,448. Corazini Asphalt, work on the Safe Routes to School grant, 304,465.68. And Devitt Spillman, legal fees for Conrad's Article 78, 3,133.43. Page 6, Easy Up shelters for the fire department, 1,229.63. Econo signs for the highway department, 1,380.12. EMT accounting services for May, 1,012.50. Robert S.A. Fire Department volunteer reimbursement, $1,000. Firematic supply rescue squad equipment, $3,440. Page 7, Balls Fire Department supplies, $1,869.95. General code update, $1,571.77. Tristan Glantz and Garrett Goodwin, medical reimbursement for fire department, $1,000 each. Charles Greenblatt, 2 payments for TCO uniforms, $4,121.22 and $1,058.05. Page 8, going on to page 10, Herrick Hardware, May supplies, $1,478.81. Page 11, Public Gas repairs at Cooper's and Betts Hall, $1,079.28. Intelligent Products, MITS, $1,189.29. Johnson Electrical, traffic light maintenance, $1,275. Page 12, Donald King and Sean King, $1,000 each, medical reimbursement. LIPA for the buildings, $5,153.29. LIPA for PD, $3,996.62. And LIPA for the fire department, $3,703.73. Page 13, LIPA for the traffic lights, $5,203.62. LaCourte Farm and Equipment Garage Supplies, $1,099.56. Page 14, Lynch's Garden Center, May supplies, $2,336.28. And Mark Maddock, Fire Department, $1,000 reimbursement. James Malone, $1,000 medical reimbursement. Messiano Consulting, grant writing fees for April, $1,915. Page 15, Morgan Auto Supplies, going on to page 16. Auto Supplies, $1,999.57. Motorola Solutions, $1,674.47. Batteries for the ambulance. Motorola Solutions, portable radios for the fire department, $6,108. Nextel Communications, May cell phone, $1,701.47. Norsec and Sons, May carding, $4,352.40. Office of State Controller, April court fines, $16,574. Page 18, Steve Phillips, Fire Department medical reimbursement, $1,000. Page 19, Pitney Bowes, mail for the village clerk, $2,400. Page 20, Stephen Rayner, $1,000 reimbursement. John Reister, $1,000 reimbursement, both fire department volunteers. Ronco cleaning supplies, $1,850.57. Kenneth Rothwell, fire department medical reimbursement, $1,000. Until it's the end of the fiscal year. Strata Baxter, defense of the historical museums, split payment, $2,386. Tom's Dive and Swim, $4,985.21. Marine rescue equipment, Diego Trujillo, $1,000 medical reimbursement. Page 23, Toomey Latham and Shea, legal fees from the Metro PCS action, $2,501.43. And 2 payments for Verizon, one for April, $3,631.12, and one for May, $3,706.73. Page 24, VHB Engineering on the Safe Routes to School grant, $9,518.19. And page 25, Ed West, $1,000 medical reimbursement, and Ken Zave, $1,000 medical reimbursement. Going on to the trust warrant, professional estate care, $5,250 for improvements on the Aldridge Lane property. Page 1 of the trust warrant, Able Alpha Trading, $2,215.75, and also $6,772.32 tax redemptions. Regina Bertrand, $2,023.88 tax redemption. Gregory Mensch, $3,932.07 tax redemption. Postmaster of the CVO, July 4th mailing, $1,318.52. And Joseph Tortorella, tax sale redemption, $1,111.42. Capital Reserve warrant, Falcons, Delafield, and Wood, legal fees for the closing of the $600,000 bond, $3,028.86. And the Firehouse bond, Excel Builders Group, $67,495.31. This is the last payment. I'm sorry, no, not the last payment for the GC, but it's on the 470 Hampton Road. And Hartford Plumbing and Heating, this is the final payment for the plumbing and heating. Further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves Sadie, Levine, and Kiako, CPAs, PC, 125 Jericho Turnpike, Jericho, New York, 11753, as the auditors for the Village and the Justice Court for the fiscal year ending May 31st, 2013, for a combined fee of $30,000. Have a motion?
Make that motion.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved
That's
that
the
the Board of...
firm that we've used in the
Yep,
past.
that's
right?
John Lundy's firm, right? He
Right,
merged
I always
with
get a
Sadie
little
Levine.
confused
Yep.
since he's not there anymore on the names.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following scheduled dates at 6:30 p.m. for the 2013 concerts in the park. Wednesday, July 3rd, Cooper's Beach. Wednesday, July 10th, Agawam Park. Wednesday, July 17th, Agawam Park. Wednesday, July 24th, Agawam Park. Wednesday, July 31st, Cooper's Beach. Wednesday, August 7th, Agawam Park. Wednesday, August 14th, Agawam Park. Wednesday, August 21st, Agawam Park. And Wednesday, August 28th, Agawam Park. Have a motion?
Make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the hiring of John Bazubek as a grasshopper for the Parks Department at an hourly rate of $11 effective June 10th, 2013. Got a motion?
I make that motion.
Second? Discussion. We have two hires here. One is replacing Tom Rowinski, who declined taking that position.
Oh, we did?
And then the second one is being sponsored by the VIAS.
The what?
VIAS.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the hiring of William A. Banks as a grasshopper for the Parks Department at an hourly rate of $11 effective June 24th, 2013. Got a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the hiring of Amanda Carey as a beach attendant for Cooper's Beach at an hourly rate of $9 effective May 31st, 2013. Got a motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the hiring of the following as lifeguards for Cooper's Beach effective June 13th, 2013. Chad Kilmer, $13.50 an hour, and Layla Nichols at $9 an hour. Have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
How many lifeguards do we have down there? Since
Is
we've always
actually, she's having, it's all like replacement situations, and like the Amanda Carey situation, somebody that she hired did not come on board,
'Cause it
so
seems
it's
like we're always
kind of
hiring
like a
lifeguards.
transition,
I'm
yeah.
wondering.
She's not increasing the staff at all, it's just a matter of
Right.
replacing people that are not coming on
Filling in the
board.
gaps.
Is that right?
Just filling in the gaps.
Yep. Resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the appointment of Theodore Lachik as a probationary member of the Southampton Fire Police effective June 13th, 2013. Motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the mayor to execute an intermunicipal agreement between the Village of Southampton and the Town of Brookhaven for the transfer of vegetative waste. Got a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Could you fill us in on that a little bit?
Yeah, that is a,
Epley?
Rick, you want to walk them through that, or you want me to? So it's basically an agreement between us and the town to, they took a lot of the brush removal from
Hurricane?
Superstorm Sandy, and they just want to get this memorialized because we're going to be doing more of this in the future with the problems up at the range there.
Mount Epley got moved from
If we-
ballpark to the town of Brookhaven.
If we sign this agreement, then the town of Brookhaven will submit the expense to FEMA, and we would only have to pay anything that is not paid by FEMA. If we don't do the intermunicipal agreement, then we'll have to pay the town of Brookhaven the full amount, and then we would apply to FEMA for whatever reimbursement. So this allows us to avoid having to pay money up front and then getting it back. So that's the purpose of it.
Okay, that's perfect.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the village administrator to execute the advertising contract between the Village of Southampton and Roaring Thunder Media for advertising at the heliport. Have a motion?
Make that motion.
Second.
Second.
This is just a renewal of the contract that we signed in 2011, which expires June 26, 2013. And this will be another 2-year extension.
Terms are the same?
Terms are the same.
Do we get to approve what they're putting out there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Approve what they're putting on, and it's just
collector.
Collecting money.
Yeah, I mean, so far we've collected over 36,000 on it.
36?
Basically.
Found money.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the organizational meeting of the Village of Southampton be scheduled for Monday, July 1st, 2013 at 5 p.m. in the boardroom of Village Hall. Village Administrator will administer the oath of office to the mayor and 2 trustees on the steps of Village Hall, weather permitting, at approximately 4:15 p.m. Do you have a motion? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following budget transfer to eliminate a line item overage for the period ending June 13, transferring $11,479 into workers' comp from the contingency account. Do you have a motion?
Make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion items? Last meeting, we distributed a draft of the lease with the Southampton Center for review with the authorization to have the mayor sign it. Anybody?
I'm sorry.
Anybody have any comments on the lease?
I'm
sorry.
Wait, sorry. You do a question. I don't have any questions on it.
I'm sorry. Okay, repeat that, please.
He's
Steve.
on another topic here.
Okay.
So.
I was in a train of thought before I forgot it, so I'm
No,
sorry.
at the last meeting, Rick had distributed a copy of the draft lease between the village and the Southampton Center for 25 Job's
Center,
Lane.
yes,
So we request that people look at it, have any questions, and hopefully we can do a resolution tonight authorizing the mayor to execute the lease on behalf of the village.
Looking for a motion? Is that-
Unless there's
Sure.
any questions?
No.
Okay. Have a motion to authorizing the mayor to sign the lease between the Southampton Center and the village?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item is Next Generation Housing. Mark, you want to make an announcement on that, as far as just that the applications are ready to go?
The Next Generation Housing, just a little background is Bailey Road, and the 3 properties at Bailey Road, and the work we've done over the last couple of years to subdivide the property, should say, create the subdivision, merge the properties together, and create 3 half-acre lots on Bailey Road under the 72H project with Suffolk County. We have 3 properties, one eligible for 80% HUD, another one's going to be 100% HUD, and the other one is 120% HUD. We have the committee working on this, and Southampton Town Housing Authority is the group that we partnered with to help us with the application process. You know, we have, and John David Rose has designed 3 bungalow homes that fit into the neighborhood very well. The application itself is a point system, and if you live in or work in the village of Southampton, you get points for that. If you are an emergency response volunteer or fire department or ambulance, you get a point for that. You get points for that if you're a veteran, and you get points for being a veteran. And also, if you live in or work in this town of Southampton, you'll get points for that. So it's a process. It's a very fair process. Basically, before the shovel's put in the ground, we'll have selected the individuals who have qualified for the mortgages. We have 3 contractors who are going to be working with us. That are they're donating their services to help construct. We've got a lot of donations from a variety of building suppliers and contractors to help build these homes. They are, next generation or affordable homes. They'll always stay affordable, so it doesn't mean that somebody qualifies, purchases the home, have it built, and then turn around and sell it for, the home's probably going to, at the end of the day, will be worth, $1 million plus. And but the idea is that there will always be covenants and restrictions on the home that prevent it from being that they'll stay affordable. There's opportunity that individual does get a return on their investment there, but it's not, it does protect this. So that way, it gives housing opportunities for first home buyers that are looking to purchase, establish themselves in the village, participate in the village, and that's exactly what we're looking for. So we have the applications that are going out. What's the date that we're?
They have to be postmarked by July 31st. They can be accepted after that, but they'll be considered as a secondary type of thing. We have applications here. They can get them at the Housing Authority. They can email. We can email them. So,
yeah. So if individuals are interested in this, they can contact Steve at Village Hall or Brenda at Village Hall or myself, or we can get applications out to them. You can also reach out to the Southampton Town Housing Authority, and they can get it. Do we have it posted on our website?
No.
Maybe we should.
Actually, it's going to be on the Housing Authority.
It'll be on the Housing Authority website. So it's a great opportunity. You can get them in postmarked before July 31st, and we start the process. So it's pretty exciting.
So the houses, so the three get selected. Homeowners do once they call, and then they qualify, and then the houses get built.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
they're not getting built beforehand. They
Right.
get built as
Yeah.
the person gets qualified and gets ready to.
That's the idea. You want to. It's kind of a double-edged sword. You got a very narrow road, so in a way, you want to try to get the homes built all at one shot to minimize the impact of the neighborhoods, and then you'd have an opportunity to share services and keep the costs low. But we also don't want to build 3 homes and have them sit there, and so they'll have to pre-qualify. There's certain. There's an income requirement. Plus, they have to have a certain amount of money in the bank that shows that they can meet all the deposit requirements there, and it's a good opportunity. But before we start construction and stick a shovel in the ground, we'll know exactly who it is, and they will be they'll be qualified applicants. So, all right. But it's
exciting.
It is exciting. I mean, this is something that.
Getting this done,
well,
because it's been a long time, and you managed. Bonnie worked very hard on
Yeah, I
it
was
too.
going to say. I mean, Bonnie Cannon really was the driving force
but you were
behind
really
this,
good at it,
and
too.
and we had to go up. Sorry, Michelle now.
Michelle
And,
now, from what I see in
we had
pictures.
and we had to go in front of Suffolk County, and Jill Rosen Nikoloff at Suffolk County, very instrumental in helping us. Jay Snyderman, I can't say enough positive things about the effort that he put forth here. The county exec, Steve Levy at the time was very supportive of what we were trying to accomplish. Skip Heaney also was involved with the county and when he was working with the county. And in our group is Richard Blows, who's on the Housing Authority, Curtis Highsmith, who were the
Ann Kajowski.
Ann Kajowski and
Sadie Gurley.
Sadie Gurley. And and
Not that
you know,
right.
John
And then you have,
Rose.
yeah, and then you have the local contingency,
Yeah.
John Rose, and then
Yeah.
the builders who step forward,
Right.
which is wonderful.
And it's,
Mhm.
I don't know if he's released the names of the builders who are stepping up at this point in time.
He
but,
did, it was in the
Yeah.
paper,
It was in the
actually.
Yeah.
It was in the paper.
And so some great builders you know, I just really, I mean, John Rose, I really, he really studied the area to make sure that the homes were, you know, perfect fit for the area. It's probably 60% of the homes match the same bungalow type
Right.
of home. He's gone to extreme lengths to make sure that the materials are affordable, that they last a long time, that the
It's
maintenance
great.
component, we're just very lucky to have John involved in this community, so, but it's a great community effort here by a lot of different people. And I know Rick was involved on keeping us all out of trouble with the development of the subdivision, and, you know, we got we got support from the community on this, and all the different boards that heard it and approved it, so. But, yeah, it's a great job by the entire community on this. And hopefully what we have are 3 very productive families, young families that work and live here and volunteer here and have served their country and, you know, participate in everything that we've got around here. So it's a great opportunity for some people.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve, you know, Steve's been a big driving force too, keeping us on track as he does everything else around here. look at the projects this guy's involved with. I'm like, yeah. So we had to wake him up, and he was sleeping in his office and stuff. And
That sun coming in the morning. Yeah.
that's right, exactly.
That
Yeah, it's
lazy
caught in
move.
your eye. Yeah. So.
Bill, the next one is you want to talk about the ice cream truck, or you want to?
Well,
You had mentioned.
I just, something for you to consider, and
Be careful.
well,
Good thing your granddaughter's still not sitting here. I don't know, you know, come on, Bill.
believe me, somebody called me about this. They were annoyed because this truck goes around and plays all this music and so on, and I've heard it many times. I happened to mention it in front of some of my children, who are in their 40s and late 40s and so on, and have all their children, and they happen to love this thing. So I'm not sure what, if anything, to say about it. It's
Well, I hear the truck too, and actually I went out one evening because I heard the truck, and I happened to be driving out of my neighborhood, and the children that are left in my neighborhood, of which
yeah.
our village is losing their kids
Yeah.
because people, what? But the thing is, they were all, they once they heard the music, they were all out on the street waiting for it. So as much as it seems like a commercialization of the ice cream industry within our community, people think it's fabulous.
Of course it is.
We actually do have village code on this.
I know you
And,
do, and they're not
and-
supposed to be, are they?
No, you can't.
Oh, they can.
Of course
You
they
can't.
can.
There's actually only.
Who are we talking about this
Like
for?
they can't operate in the village business district. They can't operate at the road ends.
Beaches.
They're not supposed, where, on the beaches, they're not supposed to be at the schools. They're not, there's a lot of areas that they're restricted to.
They
And
can be at the schools if it's an organized event that the school is
Right,
sponsoring.
right. And that's the
Just make that
only way to do that,
Yes.
yeah. So, but there is, it's in the village code, and I know that the individual drives, there's a couple of trucks out there. One is a van with stickers all over it, and
And then
I've,
I'm
Mr.
like
Softy.
Mr.
Are you guys
Softy.
telling me you guys want to run out the ice
So
cream man?
your
Is that
son
what you're
waiting
telling me?
for
You
Mr.
want the ice cream
no,
man
I,
run out
look,
of the village?
every time Mr.
No.
Softy goes to
I
my
just wanna make that
neighborhood,
clear.
I'm chasing him down.
All right.
So,
But
Wait,
there are
really?
restrictions. You know what?
There
I'll get
are.
a copy of the restrictions and send them to this person, and
there are and it's, you know what, it's a very legitimate concern, and they're not supposed to operate vending trucks inside the village business district, because we've had coffee trucks that have come in here, we've had ice cream trucks, we've had other trucks that have come into the village business district and tried to go to the different road ends. And that's when I did get, you know, the guy with Mr. Softy, had spoken with him at one point in time, and I did show him the regs. on where he could and he couldn't go. So whether he's following that, I'm not sure.
He's up by Rich now. He just stays up by his house.
Busting the
It's good business up by Rich's house.
The kids
You're
on
busting-
kids on your
you're
street were all
busting the ice-
waiting.
yes,
They were all waiting, they were so
Busting
excited.
the ice
It was
cream
fun
man.
to watch.
It's, you're up for re-election, for God's sakes, you know?
Hey, look,
I'm not all that gratified that Steve chose to bring it up. I had forgotten about it. But
You asked me to put it on the
Yeah.
agenda.
I said, what is this? I go,
I happened to
what?
mention
We're
it.
gonna talk
and
about this?
I set off a real
Sorry, Bill.
firestorm in my own.
Wait, your own grandkids find this out.
On to number
Family.
4.
Okay, yeah. We have Tom here who's patiently waiting the entire meeting for us to get to this point here. We got Tom, want to come up? Come up.
Next would be aloe and cotton candy at Cornwall's.
Mr. Mayor, trustees, thank you very much. My name is Thomas Maccabee. I'm a resident of the village of Southampton. I guess I'm a newcomer. I've only been here for about 6 months. But when I was searching for a place to live, I was working with a realtor, and each place that we looked at to live, I would inquire as to the source of water, and also whether it was a public sewer or a septic system. And actually, much to my astonishment, I found out that most of the properties on the east end are private septic systems. Many have wells, and some of the water is municipal water. But as I researched that source of the municipal water, it comes from aquifers beneath Long Island. And I've always been concerned about my drinking water. I would say ever since I was a Cub Scout. I was given the responsibility of carrying the Army canteen, on our recent hike, and was told don't drink the water when we go on our hikes out of streams and lakes. It's polluted. So that has stayed with me for many, many years, and I've always been concerned about my drinking water. Well, as I looked into this, I discovered that one of the emerging concerns for drinking water is the fact that pharmaceuticals, unwanted pharmaceuticals, are appearing in groundwater, and they're actually appearing in our drinking water. Even the drinking water which is pumped to us by Suffolk County Water Authority. In fact, in 2012, Suffolk County Water Authority closed a well, the Edgemere Road number 2 well, because of contamination by pharmaceuticals. Now, pharmaceuticals, there's literally thousands of compounds that are in pharmaceuticals. And the Suffolk County Water Authority in 2011 tested for 15 compounds. And in 2012, they tested for 21. And they found pharmaceutical compounds in the drinking water. Sufficient enough in one well that they shut it down. So what I thought I would do, because I would like to make a contribution to the community in which I reside, and this is a very wonderful community. I thought that I would take it upon myself to see what could be done about collecting unwanted pharmaceuticals and having them disposed of properly. And the proper disposal at this point, I would say the best method is incineration. So what I'm proposing is that boxes, which are called collection receptacles, be manufactured, delivered, and installed in retail pharmacies. And these boxes, collection receptacles, would be available literally 365 days a year. So a person who has unwanted pharmaceuticals could go to the nearest pharmacy, very convenient, and deposit their unwanted medications at their convenience. Now, I'll say this. In 1970, Congress passed a law and passed legislation and was signed into law by President Nixon. It was called the Controlled Substance Act, and it created a very closed system for controlled substances. That law stood on the books, it's still on the books, but it has been amended by a new law called the Secure and Responsible Drug Disposal Act of 2010. And the reason this law came into being is because Congress finally recognized that people were accumulating unwanted medications in their household medicine cabinets. Now, the most convenient method for many people was just, if they became unwanted, if the medications became unwanted, they would flush them down the toilet and get rid of them. But also having a supply of unwanted medications, some of them could be very dangerous if not taken properly, contributes to prescription drug abuse. Now, in 2009, there were 1.2 million emergency room visits attributable to prescription drug abuse. 1.2 million. And I did the math. It's one every 26 seconds. Elvis Presley died with 17 pharmaceuticals in his blood system. And we have other celebrities that make the news, and we hear about the combination of pharmaceutical drugs and alcohol. The Center for Disease Control, the CDC, has declared prescription drug epidemic, that people are dying, even people that we don't hear about in the news, because this is a very serious societal problem. I'm approaching it from an environmental, but I'm also addressing the fact that, if we can collect these unwanted pharmaceuticals, dispose of them properly, we can essentially kill two birds with one stone, protect the environment, and help with this problem of prescription drug abuse. Now, the new law that was passed in 2010 will permit collection receptacles to be placed in retail pharmacies. The regulations have not been published, the final regulations. Proposed regulations were published in December 2012, about 6 months ago, and we're still awaiting the final regulations, which could be forthcoming any day. But that will permit retail pharmacies to house these collection receptacles. However, although there's going to be federal regulation, there will be no federal funding. Mm-hmm. All right? So the organization that I will start will essentially raise funds to have these collection receptacles manufactured, delivered, and installed and operated. My estimate right now is that each collection receptacle will cost about $1,000 to have it installed, manufactured, delivered, and installed. And then there's going to be perhaps a $100 to $300 per year maintenance. That is, once the collection receptacle is sufficiently full, then the pharmacist would call up a medical waste hauler or a company which is called a reverse distributor, who is a DEA registrant. And they would pick up the pharmaceuticals and then deliver them to an incineration plant. New York State has 10 incineration plants. 4 of them are on Long Island. So this would be a great opportunity for civic organizations, Kiwanis, Rotary, VFW, charitable foundations, private individuals, to fund this system, which would definitely make a big contribution to our society in general and also to our environment. So I'm not asking for any monetary support from the village of Southampton. I'm only asking for your moral support, and hopefully I could get a resolution in support for this effort, which I could then show to potential benefactors who could help fund the organization. I think it's going to be a one-man show for a long time, and it's not going to be a big organization. But it'll be called the Lloyd McGathy Water Trust. You know, if you think of the Peconic Land Trust, this will be the Water Trust. And of course, Lloyd and McGathy are the names of two aquifers beneath Long Island where we get our drinking water.
'Cause I know there's a take-back program for pharmaceuticals at some point with the prescription piece, and I'm not sure what I'm trying to think about the DEA requirements when they take in controlled substances like that.
Yeah, let me just explain that. Right now, South Thrifty Drug has a cardboard box in the corner which is permitted to accept pharmaceuticals which are not controlled. You cannot accept controlled substances. But this new law will say, look, you can commingle controlled and non-controlled substances in this box. Of course, it's going to be highly regulated because the DEA knows that controlled substances are going to be in there, and they have to be handled properly. The DEA published in their regulations not specific dimensions of a collection receptacle, but they gave specific standards and features. So I have built a prototype in my garage out of wood. All right, I've taken it to a metal fabricator and priced out what a prototype would be. And I'm certain that it would pass DEA inspection. So essentially, once the final regulations are published, I'm ready to rock and roll, as they say.
Kind of looks like a little mailbox, the one that's here. Is that, yeah.
Yes. There are several of those old mailboxes that, but I'm not sure that that is going to pass the new DEA regulations. But the one that I designed and will have built with.
All right. I thought the recycling center in North Sea has a truck to take in.
I don't think so.
Pharmaceuticals?
I don't think so.
I mean,
I may
you
be
get
wrong
in.
on that because I do put mine in Ziploc bags to either go down to South Thrifty, but I also recycle corrugated up there, and I thought they had a truck up there for pharmaceuticals.
I'm not sure about
I'll have
that.
to look the next time I
But
go.
the current law, as it says, is that ultimate users like you and I cannot transfer our controlled substances to anyone else except to the environment by flushing it or to a law enforcement agency. And in fact, the FDA counterintuitively recommends flushing for 31 medications as the proper method of disposal. And that's under a risk management scenario.
Yeah, I know. There's a whole process to destroying controlled substances and everything. So we have to do that. We have to do it with the DEA monitoring it and stuff. So, so you're asking for a resolution from the village board.
If you feel that the initiative has merit and it will benefit the community, I would greatly appreciate your resolution in support. And you know, I would present that to other benefactors to say, look, I have gone to different organizations. I've demonstrated the collection receptacle to Congressman Tim Bishop and Jay Schneiderman and Councilwoman Christina Scalera. Fred Thiel has given me a letter, so I'm collecting a base of support so that when it comes time that I can actually put these things into retail pharmacies, I'm ready to go.
Okay. Yeah, I think it merits the program, does
Well,
it?
it merits it without a doubt.
Yeah.
You're right.
You know.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I'd like to mention one other thing, is that a week from tomorrow, Friday, I'll be meeting with Suffolk County Water Authority, and then on the following Monday, I'll be addressing the Board of Directors there as well, and I'm hoping that I could get some substantial support from them.
Okay. So we'll do a resolution a resolution in support of the Lloyd McGathy Water Trust program of Do Not Flush, Take It Back initiative. I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
For
Okay.
your due diligence and
Yeah.
a lot of
Yes,
legwork
thank
there.
you.
That's
Well, it's,
For having such a
quite a bit
great
of time
thought.
you put in.
and following through with it.
Yeah, it's, my ultimate goal is to get one in every retail pharmacy in Long
Right.
and there's only 500 of them.
That's it. Okay. That shouldn't take you long.
Thank
Okay,
you.
great.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, elevators.
Last item, okay, we had the bid openings last Tuesday. As you remember, we had to break up the project into two situations, one for the shaft and one for the elevator. We did have 12 responses on the masonry work and 7 responses on the elevator. AEC had gone through both sets of specs and bids, and with regard to the shaft, JAD Construction is the low bidder at a cost of $65,000. The bid is in complete compliance with respect to all the specifications, prevailing wage, and so on and so forth. He's recommending that we accept them. They're based in Richmond Hill. So that's for a cost of 65, and you have a spreadsheet in there which obviously Horning all the way at the end of 270, but that includes the elevator in addition, but you'll see a wide range of costs in there. The first 3 were incomplete bids, not prevailing wage. One didn't have an office, and just a series of deficiencies with respect to that. Second spreadsheet is the elevator bid. We have All-Ways Elevator coming in at 56.2, and All Island Elevator coming in at 58.8. We did have a similar spread on the first time we went out with that bid. If you remember, the issues there were All Island Elevator provided for a 3-year warranty on parts and a 1-year warranty on labor. All-Ways provided for 1 year on parts and 90 days on labor. Mark redid the specifications or the bid requirements, and he did put in that the minimum would be 1 year and 90 days, which Always did meet that. And Rick, this is a question for you, whether I know Nancy was concerned last time that All Island was a better package, even though it was a little bit more money, but it was for a year. And,
Do it.
Can that be accepted because it's a better package, or because that both met the minimum that we are precluded from accepting All Island?
If I remember right, you were going to re-advertise to put in a minimum warranty.
Right, that's what we did.
So,
And the minimum is a 1 year and 90 days. That's what Mark Schiffer did.
well, we have to take the low bid that meets specifications.
Okay.
Even if the
Even though we're
one,
getting a better warranty package?
Okay, then you want to the last time this came up, there were different warranties offered, and the bid specs said nothing. So you decided to re-advertise with specifications as to whatever warranty you wanted. I don't know who decided on what warranty to put in the revised specs. If you wanted to get a 3-year warranty, then the specification should say the minimum warranty 3 years. So you have to take the low bid that meets specifications, unless you want to reject all bids and re-advertise with new specifications again. But
everybody else was the same, 1 year, 1 year. He was the only one with the extra 3 and 1.
Let's re-advertise. We're not in a bind for time, are we?
Well, I mean, we can re-advertise and start on the shaft work anyway.
So
We can ask for
re-advertising.
the
Because
we
it's
can
really,
ask
it's
for
2
3
different bids,
years.
so.
It'd be interesting. They might all come on board for 3 years and still give us a good price. I don't know.
Doesn't the shaft have to get built before they can even
Absolutely.
do the others?
Mhm.
You probably wouldn't even lose any time, would you? Would you?
I mean, just to make sure we're not losing time, you know, so we get some people.
I mean, you know, if All Island comes in, they have a 5 to 7 week
I know.
lead
they-
time, which it's gonna take, you know, at least that to, by time, and that's the other question too, when do we wanna start on the shaft construction with regard to, you know, do we wanna do it in the summer months? You know, I think if we start after July 4th, I don't think it's a problem here. I mean,
Yeah.
most of our traffic dies down in Village Hall after July 4th. We'll have a couple of days of disruption out front to run some of to lay the platform downstairs, because that's the only way to get the concrete in, so we'll lose a couple of parking spaces for 2 to 3 days.
Okay.
We will need some disruption out back for a dumpster, for the construction debris. You know, so that's the only unfortunate thing about doing that in the summer months. As far as the noise and disruption within the building after July, it's not an issue here, because we're, you know, once the beach permit frenzy dies down on the July 4th weekend, it's not really an issue.
I was just thinking about Silvers.
So,
I would almost hate to do it in the summertime. You know, losing the parking spots and everything like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the downside.
Yeah, I think I'd almost rather push it into the fall.
Fall.
Because,
when were we originally discussing to do it?
We really didn't, you know, pick a time frame, and we started this back in, I guess, the first bids went out in March. You know, we could have started it before the Memorial Day holiday, but, you know, you still need a couple of weeks of work.
Does it mean we get anybody in there any faster? Meaning either the building department or a tenant or something? I mean, is it really making any impact if it goes longer?
Well, I mean, the next step we also have to go out for, which we can start that process right away too, is the fire alarm system, and, you know, we can start some of the other work. I mean, I wanted to use as much staff as we could internally for the project. The unfortunate thing is during the summer months, they're
Busy.
pretty tied up.
Yeah. We
So,
have them in the winter.
right.
So you're saying you prefer it to be in the fall then? I mean, the way you look at it?
I mean, look, I like to get it done sooner than later, but practically, it probably makes sense to do it after Labor Day. I mean, you know, as far as the demolition of the walls upstairs, you know, our staff can do that. There's a lot of basic work that our staff can do.
What about our September
As far as the fire alarm system, that work can be done now. When I can ask Mark to draft up the bid documents for that, to get that moving. Because that's obviously not our people, and it's not going to disrupt anything outside. We still have to consider what we want to do out back with regard to a stair tower versus refurbishing that fire escape. You know, so there's other pieces of this that can move forward.
And by the time we get that all done, it'll be Labor Day.
So to answer your question, we do have, you know, if we want to start this a little bit later, we do have the flexibility of going out to rebid on.
I would go to
you know,
rebid.
Now, what are we gonna, I mean, so we're gonna put 3 year, I mean, let's be specific now. I mean,
I think,
keep doing
yeah,
it over.
3-year
This is
parts and
ridiculous.
1-year labor and
I
a
think we
7-week
should
lead
talk about
time.
this in executive session.
Oh, okay.
What's that? Oh, yeah.
Mm.
All right.
There are some legal issues, I think. we
Okay.
should Just talk about it in a little more detail.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
Attorney?
Yeah, thanks, Rick.
Why don't you table these, and we'll talk about it in executive
All right.
session, and then if you want to do a resolution, we can do it after
Okay.
executive session.
Thank you.
All right,
Okay.
Counselor, good idea.
You want to talk about the LoSAP there?
Yeah, well, we're done with,
Oh, we're done here with, yeah, comments from board members.
all right, so
here?
comments? Yeah, I mean, summer season upon us, so everybody enjoy, be safe. The weekends, weather-wise, so far haven't been too cooperative, so I've noticed our downtown has been very busy and bustling, so that's good.
That's great.
And everything looks good, and the workers are doing a great job. So thanks, all the workers from all the departments for what they've been doing. And our trees are looking good. I see our tree guys are out there, and you guys
Yeah, they
really
are.
doing good, so.
Yeah.
And also, good luck on the 3 of your impending election.
Thank you.
And with that, I
Just
wanted.
hoping.
Yeah, and with
hoping.
that, huh? Well, what? Well, it's gonna get,
Mark, the mayor's
well, I
there.
figured he's gonna go more into that. Next Friday, the 21st. But, well, what I'm getting at, well, my part of it is the referendum. Do I want to bring that up so people know what that is?
Absolutely. People
Okay.
know what's, that there is
So could you please elaborate on it, that with electing the 3 officials, there's gonna be a referendum pertaining to the Southampton Village Volunteer Ambulance Corps. It's called a LoSAP, and if you would please, Steve,
Sure,
elaborate on
it's,
that. so
LoSAP
people-
stands for Length of Service Award Program, and the way this works is that presently, upon their retirement, they will get $20 per month for every year of service that they put into the being a volunteer within the program. The proposition is to raise that to $30 per month per year, which mirrors the benefit of the fire department, LoSAP, so that they're both equally on par.
And the fire department's had that rate for some time?
I believe 2004.
And it was done the same way, it was done with the public.
That's
And I'm just trying to remind people and remember, they've already voted, and that's the way it has to be done, because we elected to do that for the SVVA as a board, but then it has to go public referendum. So I wanted to let people know that we have a seemingly fairly simple election coming up, but there is an important item on there. It's the only one, right? It's
That's the only proposition. It's on the reverse side of the ballot, and it's just, again, the same way you fill out your regular ballot, just yes and no, close in a circle.
So I just want to make the public aware that please vote for that. It's helping our volunteers in the village and our ambulance, and it's bringing them up to par with our other volunteer department, the fire department. So it's very important, and I don't want it to be overlooked. And it's just a way you can help out your village volunteers with the ambulance. So I just want to make that. And what's it going to be called or something? Is the LoSAP, does it have a number?
It's just Proposition 1 to amend the current LoSAP program to a $30 per month benefit from the current $20 per month. And it's a full description on the back as far as the cost, if it's effective January 1st, 2014, assuming it's approved.
Okay. So please, everybody who goes out, get out to vote, and to please vote for that proposition. Thank you. That's all I got.
Mike?
Well, just to elaborate a bit on what Rich said, get out and vote. The voting is going to be at the Cultural Center, and the time, I believe, Brenda, is 12 to 9. And it is on Friday the 21st, so your support is really important. You've certainly, everybody's shown a good support on attending village meetings and board meetings, and here's your chance to get out and show additional support. So it's pretty important. 21st, Friday, at the Cultural Center.
Great. Nance?
I really don't have anything to say, other than the meeting was a good one tonight. We got a lot of information.
Yeah.
Bill?
I just wanted to, if you would each take one of these for your file, and, a little more than a year ago, I brought up the possibility of enlarging that little deck down at the end of Dune Beach. And among other things that I didn't mention at the time is that I had actually been asked by somebody in the schooling business that they wished it was a little bigger because they could take a classroom of kids down there and have a little, either a party or just a little study of the environment and so on. But anyhow, the reason I'm bringing it up at this time is it's gotten overrun by the dunes. And last year, at the time I mentioned this, it probably the front foot and a half of the deck was covered, and it's funny, the vegetation and everything else that's growing on there. And my first reaction is, well, at least let's go shovel it off. Yeah. And maybe dig out from under it a little bit so that it's off the ground. And Gary says that you can't touch this now without DEC approval. And so this picture, these two pictures were taken last week, so they're not old. And we've lost our deck completely and so on. And so in any event, I was going to, with your permission, ask Steve to maybe contact a representative of the DEC and have them come out here. And according to Gary, they won't let you touch this. It's become sacred or something, and which is absolute rubbish. And, but if it's possible, Steve, and with your concurrence, maybe we could set up a meeting and some of us at least attend it and see what we are allowed to do. Maybe Gary's wrong. You know, maybe they'll be very happy to let us excavate back to where we were so that we have our deck back. But as it is, we've lost pretty much the whole thing.
I've got to say that is the best design in capturing sand.
I was going to say the same thing. Now, here's a structure that was able to capture sand.
Yeah.
Right. You may
Gary
have something
Gillespie,
there.
you know, it's funny. That
Forget
little,
the snow fence,
the
just
little
put up a deck.
photograph that he took of that windmill that I'm enamored with taught me that anytime you want to demonstrate something, just tell Gary to go take a picture of it and so on. But anyhow, with your concurrence, maybe, Steve, you could contact the DEC and just ask them to send a representative out here, and we'll go down and look at it, and maybe they'll tell us to do whatever we want to get back to where we once, well, where we were since 1987, but we've completely, when that deck was built. It's kind of nice, the other picture, to see how, you know, you get,
Quite a sand
you
trap.
get the bay and the ocean for the price of one. In any event, I'd love to do that with your approval. Other than that,
You know, it's the sad part about it is that they do know that there are individuals in wheelchairs
I know.
that actually go up there, and that's one of their enjoyments is to go and sit on that deck, to look at the ocean, and it's sad that I actually say I haven't been up this way in a while, so.
No, I got
see that that was
lampooned for
that was
daring to
taken.
suggest that it might be nice if it was a little bigger and so on, and didn't take that critique all that well. But anyhow, right now, let's focus on, well, you know, I remember the day we bought this property, and anybody that's going to get personal about it ought to know more than they know. In any event, let's try and get back what we had,
Yeah, right.
and then we can talk about whether it ought to be a little bit bigger.
Fabulous down there.
And
Probably
so,
one of the
yeah.
most wonderful beaches.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can get the DC out here too.
You and I were out there 6,
Yeah.
8 weeks ago, and it was nowhere near
Yeah,
that situation. I can't believe
it's
it.
really, it's galloping. It's
Really?
funny what's happened. Yeah, it's
Really?
worth almost month to month. You can see it. It's
Well, it's even
disappearing.
growing beach sand there.
Yeah, I mean, that was-
Right.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's
Well,
astonishing what's happened, and now the grass is growing now on our deck. That's really remarkable.
You know that where the flagpole is, all the way out, you know, before you go down the steps to the beach, that deck to the
There's
left-hand
a little
side.
deck here.
It's
That.
under
This
sand.
is it. This is now what that looks
Brenda,
like. Actually, you can see where it stops,
Believe it.
the walkway part.
I have enough copies for
Remember
you.
when we had Mimi's event down there? Well, where do you see it?
That's
Our
that deck.
shower.
Yeah.
Remember
See
we
the
walked
flagpole
down
to the
there?
left,
It's
Brenda?
gone. Anyhow,
That's
but
it.
maybe if we could meet with the
Sure.
DEC. I once made a deal with them that I'll never forget. They were gonna, we put in the parking on the bay side without anybody's permission, because I learned
Remember that.
sometimes, and
Ask for forgiveness instead of
told
permission.
them that, you know, we'd paid $1,550,000, and it was a lot of money, and if we couldn't have enough accommodations for parking down there, that we'd probably turn around and just sell it and take our money and go home, and we won't preserve this. And $1,550,000, when I got called up to Hopog over this issue, he knew that was a lot of money, and so he suggested that he'd be able to fine us $2,000, and he'd let us keep the parking on the bayside, which was crushed stone, Bob Brown, no petroleum-based products. But it's just funny how I said, "You're forcing us to sell that, and it'll be a couple of houses." And he said, "You know, you're right." Anyhow. Let's meet with them, see if we can't make a deal.
This is one of the gems of the village.
It is.
And
For the residents.
for the residents, and you did a great job
You
by
know what I
preserving
wish
that property.
someday, Rich, have the fire department come down with one of their things that can put a bucket up 50, 80 feet in the air, and let the bunch of us go up, and I'll bet you there's a site up there. I often wish you could, you know, I'm not proposing a Ferris wheel for Dune Beach, but I'm telling you, if there was one, it would be the greatest. I mean, you could see Montauk, you could probably see the World Trade Center and every other damn thing, and Connecticut. And I wish this deck was even 3 or 4 feet higher, you know, because I think the view we'd be astonished. You'd be able to see the curvature of the earth, you know, and you're on the very edge of the continent. And I'd love to just have one look from way up.
Ferris wheel, I like that.
Well,
you're right.
hey, listen, wait till after the election and then we'll let's get that LoSAT for your fireman
Thank
first.
you, thank you. Do you have any issues, like
No,
with the Easter Bunny or
really.
Santa Claus or anything like that, or any other childhood icons that we got? Yeah.
Ice cream trucks.
Just say.
But, yeah, Bill, is that it?
That's it, yes.
No,
I'm sorry to.
That's, no, that's great. We'll get the DC and we'll,
Yeah, see what we can
yeah,
agree upon.
we could do something there that would be,
Because quite honestly, according to this picture, because I've been down there, looked at it, and it's gotten worse. It would be more than just clearing off the deck itself, because then
The
you would have
stairs,
the stairs that used to be there. You're talking about really clearing down the entire pathway so it levels
Right.
off.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's where
When you
I think that's
realize-
probably
I
where the
think-
largest. That's where the largest DEC issue I would see is, because now
Yeah.
you're excavating down there.
Yep.
But it's got to be doable. But that's a lot of sand.
there's a lot of sand. I don't see, but the deck, I mean, if we could pull the deck and expand it off the back.
Maybe we
back
could
to
sell
us.
the sand to the village trustees, then they can
There-
sell it to
that's
the
exactly
people, you
right.
know, and
So
there you
to
go.
theirs.
That's right.
Put it in front of the bathing corp or something like that.
Speaking of that, trustees, I think I remember what the line we were told was, that's your limb to hang from, something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what it was.
That's
What
you
was
good.
it?
Fred Havelmeyer was that, that's your limb to hang from. That
Yeah.
was when we were talking to him
Because the
about
gentleman
surf
asked
school.
before if we ever discussed, and I go, yeah, and the mayor and I were trying to remember, because he did have some colorful,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's what it was, that's your limb to hang from.
Yeah,
That was nice, huh?
yeah, exactly. Especially, yeah. So we'll have to remind him of that, so.
Bring a rope.
But, yeah. But, yeah, just to reiterate what was talked about, we have the election next Friday, the 21st, in Pond Lane at the Cultural Center from 12 to 9.
Who's running?
Who's running? I'm running, Nancy's running, and Bill's running. And I think we've got a great team of people here. We've done a lot of good stuff, and Michael coming on board last year, and just even tonight, just the presentation from Pio and these guys, just your input, and I mean, it's true. I mean, even with the
With the launch license.
the launch license and stuff, just bring a different perspective to the board. And we got a good team, diverse, and I think that it's a good group. And we've done a lot of great things prepping for the summertime. I know that the Cultural Center's got all their concerts in the park and at Cooper's Beach, and next door, the Southampton Center at 25 Jobs Lane. There's a whole list of events that are going to occur there during the summertime. And it's going to come out in the newsletter. We're going to be talking about that in the newsletter. So we've got some good things going on this summer. A lot of activity in the village, and hope the merchants are benefiting from that. And that's the goal, because a healthy business district is a key to a healthy community. And so I think we're headed for a good, active summer. And people will. It's what makes life out here what it is that for 8 to 10 weeks we're able to earn a nice living out here. So, thank you to the village departments for getting everything ready, and the work that's been done, and they've done a great job. So thanks. With that being said, we're going to go to a second public comment. Anybody from the public wanted to comment? I guess we drove everybody out of here. We have some things on the executive session, so I'll make a motion to adjourn the public portion of the meeting to executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters with village employees.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.